With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
It's crunch time in the season with only 2 rounds left to run. The scorecards are nearly fully marked, but the final 2 races can throw everything up in the air. We're back in Europe after our 2-race extravaganza at Road America last time out, and we're here to see who can take one step closer to that title in the LMP3-GT4 Challenge. It's Hockenheim where we find ourselves, and up in the booth this evening for RaceSpotTV. It's myself, Darren Thacker, Reese Gardner alongside me, and Dustin Ollis pressing all the buttons, making the broadcast look absolutely wonderful for all of you. And Reese, this has been, it felt like it's gone really quickly this season. I can't believe that we're on the penultimate round already. These drivers are really going to have to be on it tonight. Very different circuit to Road America, and this could really be quite important in the championship picture.
Yeah, it certainly could. Second last round, as you said, Dara. And, well, we are indeed at the Hockenheim Ring. It is a flat technical circuit with plenty of overtaking opportunities. And for the final round of the season, we go to Virginia, which is the polar opposite in terms of philosophy, a true driver's circuit to round out the season. Certainly looking forward to that, but we will have to negotiate the sweeps and bends of the Hockenheim Ring Baden-Württemberg first.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia next week is going to surely be one thriller to close out the season. But Hockenheim, obviously, with it being the penultimate round, you know, drivers could technically win the title here, but it's going to be very difficult with the points gaps that we have. Realistically, these drivers and the teams are going to be hoping to put one hand on that trophy by the time we roll into Virginia in 7 days' time. And again, I mean, we touched on the calendar all the way through, but Virginia really does stick out. And it's great to see it as the season finale because it really does prove as a bit of a change from really the last 5 races on that calendar from the Red Bull Ring through the Hockenheim Ring.
Yeah, indeed. It's been a great schedule, though, and pretty much every race that we've covered so far this season has been a fantastic run. But, well, now we get into the LMP3 standings, and it's 10 points between Dayton Lowe and Alec Bergstrom. Bergstrom still in mathematical contention for the title, was leading the championship early on, but a fantastic run of results from Dayton Lowe over the course of the mid-season has put him in that spot, and he's going to have a disastrous last 2 rounds for Bergstrom to take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to say that it's going to be tight, but Dayton Lowe does look relatively comfortable, and there's a couple of mistakes have cost him, but he's still right up there. David Duino and Peter Huston, 3rd and 4th, they're fighting over those positions, but look at Christian Garrett, Oleg Lovkov, Ryan O'Connor, all on 269 points in the battle for 5th. Vincent LaRue not too far back, Jake Browning, Doug Sorrentino, the top 10 in the driver standings, but in the teams it's a little bit more comfortable for Hydro Race Geodesic Racing. They have a 92-point advantage over Roberto's Angels Team Teal, who themselves are over 200 points ahead of Fiercely Forward. It gets a little bit tighter though. Murad and Sem Squad, Solpec Precision Racing, Sim Total Races, and Roberto's Angels Team Red all over 300 points, with Tabula Raz Esport, Echelon SimSport LMP3, and Delta Sport rounding out your top 10 teams for the LMP3s. But over in the GT4s, Aiden Young, he leads the championship. He's been leading for a few weeks now. He's been trying to scratch that advantage, but Aaron Myers, pegging him back a little bit in the last couple of weeks, keeps the gap at 12 points. Dan Rutherford is in 3rd ahead of Reed Gibson. That looks like a relatively comfortable gap, but he'll like to cover that off over the next 2 races, with Joshua Lewis in P5. Roy Brown, Adam Oskridge, Kalen Tobin, Christopher Rosario, and Robert McGeehan, the top 10 drivers in those GT4 standings. Over in the teams, Valhalla Motorsports Tavir, well, look at that gap that they have, 136 points that they have over Team Beef, and I think that's going to be quite hard to bridge at this point, if we're being honest with ourselves. Fiercely Forward are in 3rd ahead of Solprec Precision Racing, Valhalla Motorsports, Soy Boys Racing, Echelon SimSport GT4, and the Big Fast Racing crew, who round out the 8 teams that make up the GT4 grid. Now, obviously, before we go racing in tonight's rounds, we've got to thank all of our wonderful sponsors that make us, or allow us to go racing, and no more so than Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with Butt Kicker. Radness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Murad. Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. Of course, a great addition to any sim room. And of course, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on all of their socials to become a better driver. And I, of course, know they are on pretty much every single social you could think of. So get on Advanced Motorsports. They can really give you a hand. But with thanks to all our sponsors, we can get on with some of the action and really look at the rain falling here. Reese is going to throw up a few questions, I think, of the drivers, because we've only seen rain in one race in this series so far this season.
Yeah, that was all the way back at Misano for the second round of the season, I believe. So, yeah, it's been a while since we've seen these kinds of treacherous conditions. At the moment, the rain looks like it is going to be clearing at some point. So, I think that'll be some way through the race before that happens. The drivers will then be dealing with a drying track, which means the pace is going to increase. There's going to be a bit more of a dilemma over when you switch to slick tires and take through your mandatory pit stop, I should say. And well, for the time being, the drivers are all down to their skill here as Aiden Young navigates the circuit in the wet. It's your typical grey German weather here, and you can see that he's just struggling for traction there in the Fiercely Forward Mercedes, but still holding on to pole position by a bit less than 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, close as we've expected all the way through the season between Aiden Young and Aaron Myers, but that gap back to Dan Rutherford is quite a sizable one, nearly 0.7 of a second, as Dayton Lowe has gone fastest in the LMP3 category, nearly half a second that he leads. ahead of Peter Huston, but clearly quite a few drivers yet to set lap times, and Jake Branning was one of them as he bobs up into 4th. Alec Bergstrom, only 3rd, he needs a little bit more, but for Aiden Young coming around the final couple of corners, this could really be quite an important lap. It could really put a bit of a distance between himself and his championship rival Aaron Myers, and starting on the pole position here could be oh so crucial for his championship challenge. Let's see, can he improve on that lap time? It looks like he can, as Aaron Myers goes for a 59.1. Aiden Young then goes back in front of Aaron Myers for the 58.9. A nice bit of back and forth there.
Yeah, very nice indeed. Aiden Young and Aaron Myers have been closer than they've been in the past. Aaron Myers, of course, taking the win at Road America in a fantastic drive with some fantastic racing besides there at the Temple of Speed in America, in terms of road racing anyway. Alec Bergstrom, meanwhile, well, he's currently 5th in the LMP3 qualifying standings. A 49.9 is his fastest lap time right now, 7/10 off what Dayton Lowe can manage, and he'll be hoping for some big improvements on this lap. I think he's struggling to find the grip out there.
It does look difficult, doesn't it? Squirming all over the racetrack here at Hockenheim, of course, a circuit renowned for some wet races. Look at that wide line, making his way into this little stadium section in Sector 3 from Alec Bergstrom, just trying to keep a control of his LMP3 car, and you can just see him soaring away at that steering wheel, just trying to make sure that that car is under control. It does not look like it's an easy beast to handle, and you can just see him still trying not to go out onto the drag strip on the outside there, which won't be too kind to you in these wet conditions. Alec Bergstrom currently sitting P5. Where can he jump himself, if at all? I don't think he can. He improves on the lap time, but staying in P5 and still nearly 2/3 of a second off of Dayton Lowe.
Yeah, it's a shame there for Alec Bergstrom, but hopefully the race will go a little bit better for him and he can challenge Dayton Lowe for that win. Myers coming up to the end of his next lap here. We'll see if he's made any improvements. It's only 2/10 of a second that he has to make up in order to get pole position, and it's a 58.8, and that's going to move him to provisional pole. But once again, Aiden Young immediately takes it back by going faster still.
I mean, you can really see how they're finding their feet with the conditions, can't you? With both of them improving, but Aiden Young just finding that a little bit more every single lap. And it's quite nice to see them bouncing off of each other, because clearly they're relatively close on pace, which is exactly what we want to see at this stage of the season. For Dayton Lowe, I think he'll be pretty pleased that he's not on a somewhat similar pace to his championship rival, because Alec Bergstrom a little bit further back, and Dayton Lowe would absolutely love to see his championship rival struggling a little bit more than he is in the 708 to try and help him solidify his position in the championship and put one hand on that title with only VIR to go next time out. Peter Huston is one of those drivers in between the two title rivals, and let's see if he can put a lap time together. This will be his last run though, because the timer ticking down below 50 seconds, you're really going to have to be halfway around the lap now to finish this lap.
Yeah, indeed you will. Let's see if Huston can make up that 5/10 that he needs. He does make up 1/10, and he'll overcome Oleg Lovkov for the front row of the grid. Good stuff there from Peter Huston. We still have Aaron Myers out there on one of his final laps here, but with only 25 seconds remaining on the clock, this being a solo qualifying session, I believe it's a hard cut to the end of the session, so we'll see if Aaron Myers will be able to make it to the end here. I don't think he will. So he's going to miss out on passing Aiden Young once again for provisional pole position in the GT4s. But with that, looks like we're going to end things in qualifying here at the Hockenheim Ring. And it's time to go through the grid. We have 11 LMP3s and 15 GT4s taking the start.
Yeah, and they're going to have to be negotiating the sodden Rhineland, but it will be Dayton Lowe leading the field to green. Peter Huston in P2 with a very strong showing. Oleg Lovkov, he's had a couple of headline results in P3. Definitely one of those in this qualifying session. Zach Hebert will line up in 4th. Alec Bergstrom, championship contender, is 5th only, with Jake Branning just behind him on the 3rd row in 6th. Rolling on, though, to the second half of the field in the LMP3s. Christian Garreton and Ryan O'Connor on row 4, with Matthew Falk and Doug Sorrentino in the top 10. Sorrentino and Ryan Kings, who rounds out the grid, the two of the 11 drivers not to set lap times in the qualifying session. Meanwhile, in the GT4s, as you mentioned, we have a little bit of a larger grid, and Aiden Young again leading us to green. Not too far though ahead of Aaron Myers, but the sizable gap is there back to Reed Gibson of over 0.6 of a second. But Jeff Kaufhold isn't going to let Gibson get too far up the road on the second row. Darren Rutherford and Sam Mayorga 5th and 6th as they roll through, with Joshua Lewis, Christopher Rosario on the 4th row. Matthew Wyckoff and Jared Bridwell are on row 5, with Adam Ostrich and Derek Putnam not too far back on row 6 to join them. 3 more drivers, Robert McGee and Roy Brown and Travis Chapman, are going to round out the grid, meaning that we've got 26 cars to feast our eyes upon, I think it's fair to say, in this race. There's going to be lots of action. This could be quite an important lap 1, because in a couple of mistakes from some of these drivers could really be the difference between maybe a championship and losing the championship. But even still, when you look further back in the standings, to be fair, Reese, we've got 3 drivers tied in the LMP3s. We've got a very close group in the GT4s. Everything's up for grabs, really.
Yeah, everything up for grabs indeed, and considering the wet conditions that we're going to be starting this race in, there's a lot of potential for big moves and a lot of mistakes to be made, especially as they try to navigate the opening turns here. There's plenty of good overtaking opportunities at the Hockenheim Ring, but I think in the wet, there's going to be plenty more opportunities besides at some of the faster corners, where there's potential for your rival to make a mistake ahead of you and give you a good run into the next braking zone. The LMP3s are away. The GT4s are going to leave a gap, obviously, and we'll be getting going very shortly here. Once again, I've been looking at the weather radar, and it looks like the rain is going to have a hard stop very shortly indeed. You see that beautiful clearness approaching from the southwest. So we'll see if we manage to get any form of a drying track in the next 35 minutes. A relatively short race here, but yeah, man, 92% chance of rain, and well, it's definitely 100% possibility of the rain hitting the surface at the moment. Nice cool track as well, so let's see if the drivers can keep the heat in these tires on the opening lap.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a weather front with a clearer end than that weather photo showed. Really, that was incredible. But it might really throw up an interesting dynamic to this race if the track starts to dry out, especially with 35 minutes on the table for us. A pit stop mandatory for everybody in this race. When you take it early, late, it'll be up to the drivers to decide. But for Dayton Lowe, the first task is to decide when to drop the hammer, because he's leading the field to green as we run our way through the final corner here at the Hockenheim Ring for the penultimate round in the LMP3-GT4 challenge. As we get going, green flag racing here in Germany as Dayton Lowe very much takes the lead. Not going to look back whatsoever as they run their way into turn 1, but that is looking tight as they run into the opening corner. They're side by side. A few drivers run wide, but they're just about going to make it through. And over in the GT4s, looks pretty uniform all over the line.
Well, yeah, over the line, but before the line, major controversy. Aaron Myers was tapped around by Aiden Young, who went narrow in the final corner. So there's already big drama there. Aaron Myers is all the way down at the back of the GT4 field, and Aiden Young might fall under the auspices of the stewards for that one.
Good job there's 2 of us up here, because I was too busy looking at the LMP3s, but good spot there, recent. That could be important with the championship picture, especially if the stewards step in. Look at this, though, side by side into the hairpin with the LMP3s. Oh no, there's a spin there. That's Vincent LaRue, I think, going. Oh,
Sorrentino and Browning
going around.
Yeah, it looks like Jake Browning going for a big spin there. It's massive dramas at the hairpin in the LMP3s, and there's a huge pack of them happening here at the moment. Ryan King's holding on there versus Zach Hebert, and a slow exit from Christian Garreton, who was another one of the drivers involved in that crash coming out of the hairpin. Looks like we're going to have a few replays to dissect very shortly, as Matthew Wyckoff is off as well in GT4. My goodness. Yeah, we're already seeing a bunch of chaos here on the first lap, and we've had the GT4s have to deal with LMP3s early.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a fight going on for the lead as well in the GT4. So, big moments early on that we could definitely be seeing a car spearing into the wall on the exit of the hairpin. And that was presumably Matthew Wyckoff, but devastating for him. He was flashing his lights vehemently at whoever he felt was at fault for that incident. But as we run our way through the end of the opening lap, we expected drama and we got it in bucket loads. Here's Reed Gibson fighting with Sam Mayorga through the final couple of corners. These two are teammates, but Reed Gibson going to make sure that he takes the position over the 83 car and he can try and charge after Jeff Kaufhold. That's a fantastic start on the number 65 car.
Yeah, Reed Gibson taking third place at Road America last round, but battling hard with his teammate here, as you said. He'll have the over-under and extra grip off the racing line coming out of the first corner here, and it looks like he will indeed move ahead. It has been a good start from Jeff Kaufhold, up 2 places so far. Of course, one of those being for Aaron Myers, who, remember, started on the front row, but went off the circuit through the final corner. This will be interesting. So this is the start for the GT4s, and look there at Aiden Young. He gets the power down and goes narrow, and unfortunately for Aaron Myers, he gets tapped around on the inside.
Weird incident that, isn't it? Because it didn't look like Aiden Young necessarily cut too hard across, but at the same time he definitely took a bit of a tight line than the drivers behind him did. So yeah, that very weird situation, and Aaron Myers definitely won't be happy. Aiden Young, I think, may be a little bit nervous as to what might be said at the end of this race about that, but regardless, he's got to manage the job at hand. He's winning the race by 3.5 seconds and extending that gap with every passing sector, so he's doing everything he can do at the moment, but definitely something may be said about that in the coming hours. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that, but we're going to see also a replay of Matthew Wyckoff on the exit of the hairpin, and there you can see getting a bit of a tap, it seemed, going into the wall. Difficult to see from that angle, really, what happened being from the side, but we'll see if we can get a different view of that soon. But regardless, clearly big drama in the opening couple of laps, in the opening corners. It's really what we expected, because in these wet conditions at a track like the Hockenheimring, where it can tighten up, we do see eventualities like this happen.
Yeah, Christopher Rosario banging the side of him coming out of the hairpin, and with such low grip at hand when you're under acceleration out of the hairpin in wet conditions. No surprise to see that Wyckoff was sent straight into the wall as a result of that. And, well, he's been in the pits now for 3 minutes getting that damage repaired, and I don't think we're going to be seeing him back out anytime soon. Same for Sam Mayorga as well. Mayorga's had an issue as well. This is Roy Brown in the Mercedes. Avoiding action having to be taken there by Aaron Myers, who was on the recovery, and that's at a very treacherous spot on the circuit. It's blind on the way into the stadium section, and the track narrows up quite a bit compared to every other spot on the track, so good on him to avoid.
Yeah, difficult to make these avoiding moves, particularly at the stadium section, where if you go a little bit wide there, obviously you're going to find yourself in the gravel, and it can be so difficult to get yourself out of that. It can be quite a dangerous gravel trap to get yourself stuck into, but clearly difficult for these drivers, but they're managing it well so far with only 5 minutes gone. I mean, it's been an action-packed 5 minutes. I feel like it's been more than that, and that's because we've seen incidents like this, and that's Jake Browning going off the circuit as he makes his way in towards the stadium section, but he's gone to the outside there. I mean, that's a very weird little incident.
Yeah, very weird indeed. We'll have a look at what happened to him here. Crossed up over the curb. There's no grip on the curbs when it's wet, and, well, he just slithered across the racetrack and rejoined the track on the outside of the stadium hairpin. So that is a position lost for him to Christian Garreton. Remember, Garreton had his issues on the first lap. Well, one freebie is certainly going to lift his spirits.
Yeah, I think a lot of these drivers wouldn't mind having a couple of free positions, as it does seem hard to come by in these wet conditions to follow too tightly to the drivers behind you. But Jake Browning for the Hydro Race Geodesic Racing outfit looked like he's right on the back of Christian Garreton to make this position back once again in double quick time, really. But look at that spray as he makes his way through the parabolic curve up towards the hairpin. It's so difficult to see anything out of the front windscreen as the wiper is going absolutely berserk. But the inside line, these Jake Brownings, Christian Garreton going to have to hope he can hook it around the outside, but he's gone a little bit too deep, and that'll be him losing the position. Jake Browning back up to 7th, but a lot of work still to do to recover where he was.
He clobbered the curb on the inside there as well. The battle's still going on here between the Porsche and the Mercedes there. That's Kaufhold getting the move done on Christopher Rosario there. And Rosario obviously feeling a little bit sheepish, I think, after that earlier incident with Matthew Wyckoff. But now he'll continue in the top 5 for the time being. There's some good racing going on down at the hairpin as well. He's trying his best to make up the gap under brakes, but at the moment it seems like Kaufhold has the advantage, and well, Kaufhold's finally made it back up to the position he started in, and now he has to catch up to Reed Gibson and Darren Rutherford in 2nd and 3rd. Oh, problem for Sorrentino as well. Doug has had a problem there in the stadium section, and it looked like from when we cut into that, contact with another car potentially, but remains to be seen. It looks like he lost it all on his own there, just got it crossed up under brakes. No anti-lock braking system in the LMP3.
Very impressive to keep it out of the wall actually there from Doug Sorrentino, but maybe the rejoin wasn't necessarily at the ideal standard, because it definitely did look like there was a little bit of contact there between another driver. But look at that, Jeff Kaufhold having a bit of a rear slide, but even bigger rear slide. Oh my word, for Sam Mayorga. Get into the wall, my word. Cars going all over the road to avoid, and then the car disappears. Sam Mayorga, no wonder he's out of this race. What a massive hit there.
Yeah, that's such a shame for Sam, and he's disconnected from the server as a result of that. That only happened a few moments ago. Josh Lewis, meanwhile, not the only one with issues, and that's a big slide off there. Thank goodness a couple of builds ago we had extra grip given to gravel and grass, because that wasn't the case. He would have been instantly into the barrier.
Reckon if you pause that slide at a particular moment, it would look really cool, because you wouldn't realise how fast the approach speed into the corner was and how wide you were going to be going, because it looks like you're making the corner, but in actual fact you're drifting a long way wide. But again, good to keep it out of the barriers. A few of these drivers really having some big moments, apart from Sam Mayorga, sadly, able to just about keep it out of the fence. But yeah, look at that. I mean, just about now, that looks really cool, but you're not really considering the fact that you're taking a little bit too much speed.
Yeah, just a little too much indeed. Well, still waiting for the rain to clear, and judging by how fast the rain is moving, we should be getting a lack of rain in maybe the last 15 minutes or so of the race. I don't think that's enough time to dry out the track, because you see how wet it is at the moment. On the insides of these corners, we have proper puddles forming next to the curbs, so the drivers are going to have a lot of trouble clearing that water. You see, we are just about ready to greet the sun back into our lives.
Yes. Again, that is such a weird looking weather map, isn't it? You'd expect a front to approach like that, not disappear. But regardless, I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it? It just means it's going to stop raining soon, and that might mean the drivers have to adjust, because they've known that this race was going to be wet for quite some time, as Rosario has gone off the track in the number 24 car, and I mean, a few of these guys aren't having the best of times, and again, that's in the final sector. It looks like the trickiest part of the racetrack at the moment, which you would expect with it being tight and twisty.
Yeah, well, look, adaptability is a big part of driving in the wet, and I think Rosario just took a bit too much curb there. It's the one thing that you need to remember, even at a track like Hockenheim, where you have to use the curbs in places. Remember, they're extra slippery when it's raining. Same for the white lines on the edge of the circuit as well. That's why you're seeing drivers not going too far wide. Sorrentino, meanwhile, towed back to the pits after this incident. Well, that's too much curb again. Usually in the dry, you'd be able to hold on through there, but that bump coming off the exit of the corners, that's ultimately put him into the pits, and I don't think Sorrentino is going to be making much more headway from here either.
this is a track with a bite, isn't it? There are a few of these corners and a few of these curbs that really can, suck you in and then spit you out again. I mean, these are very, very harsh circuit if you make a little mistake. So you've got to be oh so careful around here, particularly in these wet conditions, because you're going to be drifting that little bit more than you'd want to be doing. And there we go. That's a good example of Adam Ostrich going wide down at the Mercedes-Benz grandstand, but he'll work his way back onto the original circuit for a brief moment before turning back into the stadium again. But Ostrich, it does show that we're not seeing all these little mistakes. Clearly we're seeing the big mistakes because there's quite a few of them, but there's going to be even more of those little errors that are going to cost you a couple of tenths. But it really does show how people like Aiden Young, Reed Gibson are making less of those because they're that much further in front after only about 15 minutes.
Yeah, indeed. Aiden Young and Reed Gibson, aside from Aaron Myers, are the only drivers to have set times in the 1 minute 59 second bracket in the GT4 category. And speaking of Myers, we're taking a look at him now. He's made a great recovery. He's back up to 5th place. Remember, he was running last when they got the start after that unfortunate incident with Young at the front of the grid. Well, he's certainly put his head down and is getting some excellent lap times. 1:59.7 on the previous lap, as, oh dear, that's Jared Bridwell that's had a big problem at turn 1. I get the feeling that's another case of clipping the curb just a little too much.
Yeah, almost. You can almost put some money on it. Let's see, dipping his way through turn 1. Maybe he's losing the rear end mid-corner, actually. Doesn't seem like there was too much contact with that curb, but at the same time, maybe a bit of overthinking doing there, realising that you're not going to hit that curb with the inside, and then drifting a little bit wide, and then all of a sudden you don't want to drift that far wide, and the rear end starts stepping out, and it all becomes about as much of a problem as you were worrying about to start with. But let's have a look at Dayton Lowe, because he's leading the race in the LMP3s. He's 3 seconds in front of Oleg Lovkov, which, in the grand scheme of things, isn't the largest gap that we've seen, particularly when you think that Aiden Young has a 9-second gap over Reed Gibson, but it looks comfortable enough for the time being. You've always got to remember that these guys have to take a pit stop at some point, and no one has decided to come in just yet.
Yeah, well, I think they're banking on potentially the track drying out, so maybe they'll be waiting until the rain is cleared and the track starts forming a dry line for them to jump in and potentially move to slicks. But I think even at this stage, that's a very slim possibility. The track does take a while to dry out, especially when it's been raining for this long. We are 15 minutes into the race as, oh dear, Josh Lewis having trouble there. He's now back with his teammate Christopher Rosario. Both of these guys up 1 position, but it's starting to get a bit more treacherous out there for Lewis. Just got onto the white line there on the entry, I believe, and that just killed his braking performance.
Yeah, this is really just going to be a race of survival, at least till it stops raining, and then you don't even know if it's going to dry up very much at all with these very damp conditions. Oh, another big moment from both of them, actually. In the end, it looked like it was just going to be a big moment for Joshua Lewis, but it also seemed that Christopher Rosario had a bit of a moment trying to avoid the moment, and I think that's been a bit of a theme of the race so far. But driver from California looking to get that run as they make their way on towards the back straight through the parabolic curve, I should say, and it does look like he's going to be gaining quite a bit to try and make a move at the hairpin.
Yeah, we're hearing that Ryan Kings has come into the pits, first scheduled pitter in the LMP3s, aside from Christian Garaton, who came in 4 laps ago. And that we have our LMP3 leader coming up on them as well, as so slow at the apex of the corner. That's going to be Rosario making his way by Lewis for now, but this is where the LMP3s come into the fold. It is traffic time, and it's going to be extra difficult in these wet conditions with how much spray is being thrown up. You see the trouble that Oleg Lovkov was having picking the line there. So much spray, you can't see where they're going. You have to be aware that the GT4s are going to be tracking out all the way to the outside of the corner on exit.
And of course, with the fact that we've got these wet weather conditions, it does really show that the LMP3s realistically don't have that much of a pace advantage over the GT4s in the corners, because they're not gaining or losing much, and it's taken them pretty much half the race to get 1 lap on these guys, when normally it's quite a lot quicker than that. So clearly showing that these guys, they're going to have it, well, they're not going to have it their own way. The likes of Alec Bergstrom, the likes of Lovkov, Dayton Lowe, they're going to have to work for this, and they're going to have to be astute, they're going to have to be careful, and they have to make it work pretty quickly, because otherwise they could find themselves stuck behind some of these GT4s for a lot longer than they were hoping to do so. But for Alec Bergstrom, this traffic is going to be crucial for him. He needs Dayton Lowe to get held up, and he needs to fly through, because otherwise he's going to be in a world of pain, considering that he's nearly 6 seconds off the back of his championship rival, and realistically needs to beat it tonight.
Yeah, exactly. It's big pressure for Bergstrom coming into this round, but yeah, for the time being, it looks like Dayton Lowe is fully in control of this race. Bergstrom is making up time on Lovkov, though, about a 1/10 of a second, probably a smidge less on the previous lap. And Lovkov and Bergstrom actually fairly equal on their fastest laps so far, only a 100th of a second between them. Dayton Lowe is dominant right now in terms of pace. He has been consistently setting 1 minute 49 second lap times, and his fastest is a 49.8. So let's see if these guys can do anything to catch him up. 5/10 of a second on lap 8, only 300ths of a second on lap 9. Ryan O'Connor as well has jumped into the pits from the LMP3s, and he's been in there for quite some time. That's 25.7 seconds stopped in the box for Ryan O'Connor. These are some very long pit stops that we're seeing. We usually expect the LMP3s to be stopped for, I don't know, around 10 seconds to 15 seconds, and the only person in that bracket so far has been Garatom. It's been over 20 seconds in the box for Kings and O'Connor, so they've been having more issues besides.
They might need some snacks. That might be where they went, actually. Need some snacks, because this is quite a taxing race for them. Keep the energy levels high. Look at that. Oh, I thought it was someone going wide, but in the end, that was just Lovkov coming into the pit lane. The first driver really in the lead group, you'd have to say, that has come into the box. And let's see how long this pit stop is, because as we were just touching upon, they've been pretty long, particularly for the LMP3s, but Oleg Lovkov may be a bit of a litmus test to see if that really is genuine, or whether they were just exceptionally long stops.
Yeah, he overshot his pit box as well, so I get the feeling this stop is going to lose him the position to Alec Bergstrom once everything works out. And that's more like it. 8.5 seconds stopped there for Lovkov, and he stays on the wet tyres, so he's expecting this race to continue being very greasy. We'll have to wait and see if there's anyone who decides to stay out as long as they possibly can and hope to switch to slicks. But the way the track's looking at the moment, I don't think that's going to happen now.
Oh, it's still raining, isn't it? I mean, not as hard as it once was, it's fair to say, but there is still precipitation on the racetrack, and the track is very, very wet. It's not going to be drying to the point where it's going to be worth staying out for slicks in the next 15 minutes. If this was an endurance race, we had a couple of hours, then I can absolutely see the point. We've only got 15 minutes left. You've not got enough time to wait for the track to dry, and I think Lovkov's kind of realised that, and in the bullet, and decided to go when he did, and let everybody else try and make their own decisions. But for the likes of Oleg Lovkov, he's going to come up behind Jake Browning pretty soon, and Zach Hebert as well, because look at Lovkov, he's eating time out of Jake Browning at the moment. That gap, when I first mentioned it, was 1.5, it's now down to 9/10 of a second, and that'll be why.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, make your way through the traffic if you can. Jake Browning struggling at the moment for pace, and Lovkov on those fresh tyres is getting some great pace. The wet tyres do tend to wear down quite fast. They're very soft. They have to be. They're navigating a very cold and wet racetrack, so the pace difference between fresh tyres and used tyres is massive. And into the pits, Browning is going to come. He recognises now with Lovkov behind him, it is time to come in and get some fresh rubber on there. It looks like the rain has pretty much cleared now in the southern part of the racetrack. Just a little bit of rain touching the hairpin at the moment, but we still see precipitation falling here on camera, so maybe the weather radar is not entirely accurate. So regardless, the rain is going to clear in a few minutes' time.
Yeah, you can just about see, there is the circuit. Of course, the northern edge of the circuit is pretty much all the way from turn 1 up towards the hairpin. So, yeah, you can see how it's just leaving the circuit up towards the hairpin in a consistent move, and actually quite nice that it's pretty much gone from the main straight. It just kind of follows its way up the circuit in a linear line, all the way following the old Hockenheim ring, but still raining down here as they make their way back towards the start-finish straight. It can be interesting to see lap by lap if this starts to move away quickly, and I can just about start to see the rain is not falling in this part of the racetrack anymore, so it really is just that little tip now that is receiving some rain.
Yeah, indeed it is. Well, 13 minutes to go in the race. And, yeah, I think we can pretty much confirm at this point that is not enough time to take the gamble on switching to slicks. We're waiting on pit stops from our leaders. Dayton Lowe has decided it is time to put the hammer down once again. 1:49.1, a new fastest lap in LMP3, as Christian Garreton and Ryan O'Connor fight over 8th position. Both of them have pitted now. Garreton has just come out of the pits, so he should have the pace advantage with 2.5 laps on Ryan O'Connor's tyres. They'll be heated up, but will be a little more worn down at this point.
Yeah, and O'Connor all over the back of Christian Garreton, so we'll see. Oh, and that'll be why, because Ryan O'Connor is going to get that position on Christian Garreton. Garreton going wide, just waving to the fans, but not in a way that's going to help his race out. He loses the position, and P8. Darren Rutherford is into the pit box with a 13.6 second stop for the 13 car. There's a bit of synergy there, but he'll emerge still seemingly in P6 as Joshua Lewis and Christopher Rosario followed him into the box. Meanwhile, Aiden Young still leads the race by a gargantuan 12 seconds now, and that is just ever increasing. When he decides to pit, it's going to be really quite interesting, because him and Aaron Myers, 22 seconds apart, you wouldn't really say there's much of a race left to go now.
No, with Myers getting spun off at the end of the formation lap, that's completely changed the face of the race. And for Aiden Young, it's just a case of driving within the limits and continuing on as is, and he should have this win locked up. He just needs to make sure not to make any mistakes, and as we've seen in the past, no one is immune to mistakes in the wet, but Aiden Young is known for enjoying wet conditions, so he's probably having a nice old time out there. With 11 minutes to go, Dayton Lowe still leading. Our top 4 in LMP3 have yet to come into the pits, and we're still waiting on... okay, Aiden Young has decided to come in now from the lead in GT4. So let's see what kind of times we're going to get from him here. Rutherford's pit stop was 13.7 seconds. I'm expecting about the same here for Young.
You'd think so, but maybe we might see a little bit of differentiation. You never do know. Let's see as the time ticks up, as the drivers are stopped on their blocks. And Aiden Young in the end, 12.7, a pretty quick stop for the 427. Clearly not having to take on as much fuel, and he's going to be able to emerge in the lead. And looks like it's going to be a lights to flag victory unless something bad happens to Aiden Young. But meanwhile, still on track is this battle between Huston and Alec Bergstrom, who is looking to try and get past Peter Huston because he's made this mistake at turn 1.
Yep, it's another case of clipping the curb, and around he goes. Managed to just keep it out of the tyre barriers there. I think the front bumper just brushed the edge of the barrier, and Huston was there ready to go through into second. So you never know. Hydro Race Geodesic Racing could be looking at a podium here, but we're still waiting on pit stops from both of them. Remember Oleg Lovkov? He pitted about 3.5 laps ago, and he's setting very good times indeed, setting in the 1:49 second bracket, which is a tiny bit faster at the moment than Bergstrom and Huston are running.
Lovkov is only about 6 seconds behind Alec Bergstrom now, so clearly not too far back, and going to be in the hunt. Well, obviously. The point is useless when we also remember that Bergstrom has to pit, but he's going to be hunting him down in the next couple of laps if Bergstrom tries to leave it as late as he possibly can, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in this lap, and indeed he does, because those tyres may not have treated him well through turn 1, and he wants to get rid of them, get some new ones on, get a little bit more fuel on the car to get him to the end, and just see where he can get, because Dayton Lowe, again, he's just been the class of the field, he's been leading all the way through, And Alec Bergstrom, despite being the early season championship leader, just hasn't had the answers in the last month or so.
He hasn't had an answer for stopping in the box either. He overshot and had to reverse back in. That's not the first time we've seen that. That's cost him some valuable time there. So I think now he's definitely going to lose out. He's already been passed by Lovkov, and Oleg is, wow, a solid 14, 15 seconds ahead of him. That is just an incredible gap that even Alec Bergstrom would not be able to overcome.
Yeah, and Bergstrom, with the best of his abilities, is not going to be able to catch Oleg Lovkov. There's no doubt about that. But Oleg Lovkov may have some difficulties getting past Zach Ebert in the 511 car, because there's only about half a second between those two drivers as Dayton Lowe soars at the steering wheel. But here is that battle for P3. Lovkov right on the tail of Zach Ebert, looking to find a way through. But of course, the 511 still having to pit, I do believe. So he will get out of the way at some point, but I don't think Lovkov wants to be wasting too much time in the wheel tracks of the 511.
Yeah, I would imagine. Let's see then if Lovkov will be able to pass him before Hebert decides to come into the pits. Considering that, oh dear, Adam Ostrich in the Solpec Precision Racing Cayman has lost his rear wing thanks to that, as Dayton Lowe has come into the pits, I was about to say, before we cut to the spun GT4. We'll see what happened here to Ostrich. Oh, it's once again the outside curb on the exit of turn 1, and goodbye rear downforce.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got to keep a tally now, really, of the amount of incidents that we've seen at turn 1. A bit late to start, isn't it, with only 7 minutes left, but that's at least the 7th spin that we've seen down at the opening corner, whether it's the inside, outside, early in the corner, late on the exit. It's all been happening down there, and it's just not been an easy one for the drivers to negotiate. But negotiate it they have, and none better than Dayton Lowe in the LMP3s and Ed Young in the GT4s as they lead the way with only 6.5 minutes on the clock. Lovkov for 9.4 seconds back on Dayton Lowe, but you'd say that's a little bit too much to bridge, and 13.1 is absolutely too much to bridge for Reed Gibson on Aiden Young unless something catastrophic happens to the championship leader in the GT4s as they all on their way through the final sector now. I mean, you would say that these races are over for the wins, but there are definitely positions up for grabs, and the likes of Huston and Bergstrom fighting over third, but also in the championship, I touched on it before, Lovkov tied coming into this race with Garretton and Ryan O'Connor, and he's undoubtedly outperforming them this evening.
Yeah, certainly is. We're hearing news of Jake Browning having a very long pit stop, and we're about to see the reason why. It's very similar to what happened to Doug Sorrentino a while ago, and well, he just lost it under brakes coming into the hairpin, and looks like that's destroyed the suspension on his car. See how he's struggling to maintain control of it there. So big repairs need to be done there for Browning. With as little time left in the race as there is, I don't think he's going to come back out. Meanwhile, Huston getting chased by Alec Bergstrom, who's making up bulk time in the mid-corner there, but got way crossed up over the curb. You're starting to see a bit of a dry line starting to form here as the rain has indeed stopped, but only 5 minutes to go in the race. It's still not good enough to go to slicks. For the time being, the drivers are now having to search for grip off the racing line. You get the dry line going, and yeah, there is grip there, but then you'll get concerned about the tyres heating up too much through the corners. You need to be driving over the wet sections of the track on the straights just to keep the tyres cool.
Yeah, it does seem, though, that the track is wet enough to keep this tyres relatively cool, but with every passing minute, that track is getting ever so slightly drier, and you're going to have to be finding those damper patches of the racetrack just to keep those tyres in a working window. You don't want them getting too far outside of where you need them to be, and Bergstrom and Huston will both be knowing that, but both also very aware that if they open the door anywhere, then, you know, Bergstrom or Huston's going to come steaming up the inside if Bergstrom can get in front, because this could be a battle that goes both ways in the next 4 minutes. You can see an overtake happening from Alec Bergstrom, and at the same time you can see an overtake or a re-overtake from Peter Huston, because these two do seem so close on pace at this stage in the race. But Bergstrom looks like he's lining up Peter Huston down in towards the Mercedes-Benz grandstand, but nothing he can do there as they dip their way through the left and then in towards the right. But he is absolutely lurking in the high grass and waiting for his opportunity to bounce.
Yeah, this is the part of the circuit where Bergstrom looks faster, and he's had a great run out of the corner there. Mid-corner now, Huston will stay a little wide and actually get a great run off the exit there, so Bergstrom will have to wait a few moments longer for the potential move. The question is, where can you make that move? You have to nail the exit out of turn 2, I think. The only place where you can really make a move and make it stick would be the hairpin midway around the lap, if not turn 2 itself. Everywhere else, it's really anyone's game.
Yeah, and especially with this traffic upcoming, this isn't going to help out either of them as they fight their way through. But as they make their way in towards turn 1, Bergstrom may be trying to set up the exit here because he knows that it's going to be a little bit compromised for Huston in the back of the GT4, but clearly the 42 not having too many issues on the exit of the opening corner, and he can stay right where he is. But they're also going to have Doug Sorrentino not too far in front, who's going to provide maybe a little bit of roadblock, but of course may move out of the way, being over a lap down on the rest of the field. So we'll wait to see if that makes any difference. But for Alec Bergstrom, the timer is really ticking down. This is the penultimate lap for him now, you'd say, and he's going to have to take his opportunity soon because there's not going to be many more coming his way.
Oh, he's very deep into the hairpin there, but he manages to slow down just in time for the turn-in point. And now it is LMP3 traffic versus LMP3 lead lap. Sorrentino making it back out onto the racetrack after his big incident earlier. He's been out there for 10 laps now, and he's still having trouble keeping it nice and stable. He'll have to let these guys go now, and indeed he does. He sees the battle behind him and says, okay, play on, guys. I'm going to get out of the way.
Yeah, good to see him not interfering too much in the play that we're seeing as we run our way through. And the racing is really quite intense now, with only one more lap to go at the end of this one. And they are right tucked up together. Or is it going to be 2? It's going to be close, actually, whether we get 1 or 2. The last lap from Dayton was 1 minute 50. So, yeah, no, we're definitely only going to get the one more lap because these guys are... yeah, definitely the one more lap. So white flag realistically flying. It's going to be close, but I think we are going to find the checkered next time round, and that means that Alec Bergstrom has to make this move almost immediately. He's got turn 1 where he's not going to be able to do it. He's got turn 2 where he might get the run. He's got the he's also got that hairpin where he's going to have to make a send, because anywhere else almost going to be impossible. But Bergstrom knows he needs this podium for any chance at the title.
Yeah, he needs to get this move done. Meanwhile, Adam Ostrich, well, he already had no rear wing, and once again, another spin at turn 1, and that's a very awkward spot right at the exit of one of the fastest corners on the track. Fortunately, no one else involved in that, but all Ostrich can really do at this point is keep it stable to the end. He's going to be passed by the battle between Bergstrom and Huston. Bergstrom having a little look, peeking out of the spray, coming into the braking zone, but oh my god, almost cleaned up by Ostrich, who way overshot the braking zone there.
And that would have been an absolute disaster, not just for Alec Bergstrom, but for Ostrich as well. Now, I don't think he would have been a very popular man if he accidentally went into the back. But here comes Bergstrom, inside line, maybe, no. I really thought he was going to go for it there down in towards the Mercedes-Benz grandstand section of the racetrack, but sitting in behind and waiting, maybe trying to pounce with a GT4 possibly coming to his aid. But as those two still squabble over what is P3 and P4, the championship leader, he is just taking big strides now towards the title. 1 race to go, and he's going to have a comfortable championship lead for Dayton Lowe in the 708, who wins here in Hockenheim and will take a very, very healthy advantage into the final round at Virginia in 7 days' time. Oleg Lodko will be second, but there's Alec Bergstrom. He's gone wide. It's all come undone for him against Peter Huston. He won't lose out to Zach Hebert, I don't believe, who's a little bit too far back. He will have to settle for P4, and that just won't be enough for the number 66 car, who started the season with a couple of wins, so much ambition, but in the end, it's just not seeming like it's going to materialise for a championship win.
Yeah, at the moment, it's looking like a way outside chance for Bergstrom. So now we'll leave it to our GT4s to take the checkered flag. Aiden Young with a massive lead indeed. He has got a gap of about 9.5 seconds, 8.5 seconds now to Reed Gibson, who was backing up his podium at Road America last week with a very solid drive to second place. But Aiden Young untouchable out front, as we've seen so many times before this season.
Yeah, his drop round at the moment is a 51-point drop round, which just shows how dominant he's been, how consistent he's been. And he won't be dropping this one. It's another win in the GT4 class for Aiden Young, who just extends that championship lead to the point where it's nearly unassailable for Aaron Myers. I mean, he's going to be a good 20, 25 points back as we head our way to Virginia. But Aiden Young, absolutely dominant once again, and he is in control of the GT4 class with Reed Gibson and Dan Rutherford, who are going to round out the podium in the class. But I mean, hats off. Dayton Lowe and Aiden Young, they have been the two drivers, undoubtedly the drivers of the season in both of the classes, and I think we're going to have the pleasure of speaking to them both again, Reese.
Yes, indeed we will, and just in time for the finish, the sun peeks out from behind the clouds. It was a full wet race the whole way through here at Hockenheim, and the drivers who love the wet excelled.
And the driver that loved the wet the best in the LMP3, seemingly, undoubtedly so, Dayton Lowe, who won by 9 seconds in the end ahead of Oleg Lovkov, who, with respect to Oleg Lovkov, great result, and we didn't really talk about him enough to be that close behind the race winner in the end. Another good result for the 69 car. Peter Huston rounded out the podium after just about holding off Alec Bergstrom, whose championship hopes have, they've kind of disintegrated here this evening. Still a chance next week, but very, very slim. Zach Hebert, P5 in the end, 33 seconds off the back, but he was very comfortably ahead of Ryan O'Connor, who was about 45 seconds off the back with the 5.11. Matthew Falk and Christian Garrett on the only other two drivers on the lead lap, with Doug Sorrentino a couple of laps down, Jake Browning having some issues 4 laps down, and the final driver in the order, Ryan Kings, who was not finishing that race, 10 laps down in the end. But meanwhile, in the GT4s, it's Aiden Young once again winning the race. It's the Mercedes 1-2 with Reed Gibson just in behind. 3 Porsches of Dan Rutherford, Aaron Myers and Jeff Kaufold, a 3rd, 4th and 5th, but Aaron Myers will not be happy, it's safe to say, with only settling for P4. Joshua Lewis, Christopher Rosario, Derek Putnam, Adam Ostrich and Rob McGeehan, the top 10 drivers in the GT4 class after 19 laps of racing, or 18 for those guys, in the back end of the top 10, and Roy Brown was the only other finisher. Jared Bridwell, Sam Iorga, Matthew Wyckoff and Travis Chapman, sad for them, finding the walls, finding the barriers around this circuit, and finding themselves out of the race a long time before the finale. But, still, one more chance for those guys to have a bit of a go, but not going to be fighting over the title. That is firmly between Aiden Young and his championship rivals. But Reese, delighted to say, I believe we can now talk to Dayton Lowe, who was our LMP3 winner.
Yeah, indeed we can. Congratulations, Dayton. Car 708 in front once again. You tend to enjoy these wet conditions, and it certainly was a difficult race for the most part, with the rain not letting up until right near the end.
Yeah, it was pretty treacherous out there. But throughout the week, I knew I didn't have the ultimate pace, at least in like the practice sessions I was in. But if there was one thing I was good at doing, I was keeping it on the circuit. And that was far more important than anything else in a wet race. So yeah, I feel really confident in wet conditions. I like them; they're a lot of fun, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with tonight.
And considering your main championship rival Bergstrom lost out a bit here with qualifying not going well for him and finishing 4th, I mean, that's an extension once again of the championship lead coming into the final round at Virginia. That's going to be an interesting round for sure as well.
So I'm very much looking forward to the race at VIR. It looks like an incredibly fun track in these cars. But I can't let off in any capacity going to this final round, because the championship is not over until we cross that finish line for the final time. So I'm just keep at it, keep on grinding, and pretend that just not even pretend, just know that the championship isn't over yet. So I'm going to push into the final round.
Excellent stuff, Dayton. Well, congratulations on another dominant win, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to chat to you again next week.
Hopefully I'm back. I shall catch y'all on the flip.
All right, Dayton Lowe with a fantastic drive there. And, well, now we move to our GT4 winner, Dara. Aiden Young is with us now.
Yeah, Aiden, welcome in. Congratulations once again. I mean, what a dominant drive. You must be absolutely ecstatic because not just a win for you, but your championship rival not even in P2. This is surely the perfect evening for you.
I had a little spin, Alice. I'm not gonna lie. When I spun, I was a little nervous. I think Mattia Bonato was in the background somewhere saying "Sbinala, pronto." I think I heard that in my ear at one point. So then when I heard that, I, in particular Ferrari fashion, even though I'm not driving a Ferrari, I spinaled. So I was a little nervous because I thought I was gonna get stuck just spinning tires on the runoff, but I managed to get it back on and get going again. And then I looked down and I realized I'd saved enough fuel, so I was like, okay, push, try and open that gap a little more, even though I knew it was a big enough gap to where when I spun, when I looked over, I was like, oh, I still have 8 seconds, I'll be good. Part of the inner racing driver in me, or the inner champion in me from last season was like, no, bigger gap, need bigger gap.
Talking about that gap, I mean, all the way back at the start of the race, there was that incident coming to the green that you had with Aaron Myers. I mean, talk us through that, because it looked like a really, really weird little scenario. What happened from your point of view?
Good question. I don't really know, but if I had to guess, with the new damage model or whatever, there's been this recent string of netcode spins that happened to me at Masano and GT3 Sprint. You get down to the inside of someone, and sometimes in the wet, with this new damage model, if you barely tap them, it's it could just be the slightest nudge, it can be a little tap of the tire against the door, it just breaks the car loose and you just spin. And it's a little weird in my opinion. If I had to guess, I think that's what happened. If not, I mean, then I'll take a look at the replay and see if, maybe there was anything I could have done to avoided that. But yeah, I don't really know.
But aside from that, I mean, a stellar drive from you once again, and no doubt we'll probably be speaking to you in 7 days' time after Virginia. So, Aiden Young, congratulations. You've taken a step closer to that title, and maybe you'll be winning it in 7 days' time.
Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to VR. I'll see you guys next week.
You too, Aiden. Great to have our winners in the booth with us. And Reese, I also see that Reed Gibson's here.
Hello. Yeah,
Hello.
welcome back, Reed. After the fantastic result at Road America, you back it up with another podium, second place now. Seems like the wet conditions at Hockenheim smiled upon you.
Yeah, because I was trash. I was way off. I don't know how to drive in the rain. I live in California where it doesn't rain, so I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, well, regardless, it was all about survival here in the wet with plenty of incidents around the track. Were there any points in the race where you thought it might be over?
Yeah, I mean, I had one point where Peter Huston tried to pass me on the outside and tried to give myself some more space, and we touched. So I'm sure he'll try to get a penalty for me for a minor contact again. But other than that, pretty well behaved. I mean, the P3s broke early and left people room, at most spots. But that stadium section is the most treacherous part. So that was probably the only moment where I was like, "Ooh, this could end poorly," but I was able to sneak on through.
Excellent stuff. Well, maybe there's potential for yet another podium at the final round at Virginia International Raceway. Hopefully we can chat to you again there, Reed.
Yeah, I hope so. I like VIR. I think it will be fun.
Excellent stuff. Reed Gibson there with second place in the wet at Hockenheim. So that concludes our coverage of LMP3 and GT4 for this round, Dara. Now we move on through to GTP and GT3. This is the part of the night where we really get fired up. We are racing at the historic layout of the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Slipstream is going to be paramount here, as well as mid-corner speed.
Of course, we've already seen a round of, at this circuit, I should say, in the LMP3-GT4 challenge, so not a new track this season, but it is for these drivers, and what a calendar it's been, realistically, all the way through. We've had the Algarve, the Nürburgring, Daytona Road Course, Mosport, probably one of the craziest races I've ever watched, along with the likes of Interlagos, Fuji, Road America, and next week when we end it at the Circuit de la Sarre, this really has just been a perfect little collection of tracks, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful set of circuits to bring us this 2024 Season 3 schedule. We're going to end off the season at the Circuit de la Sarre in a week's time, and it'll be good to see these cars at their spiritual home once again. But I think pretty much every single race this season has been defined by something big. You know, we've had fantastic battles at every single round this season, and the championship is certainly not reflecting that at the head of the GTP standings, with Pat Pelchat absolutely uncatchable now.
I mean, that gap at the moment is, what, 49 points coming into this race. Theoretically, he could win the title tonight. I do believe, but I think with drop rounds and all the maths, regardless, we'll leave that till next week to officially crown him when we crown the rest. But he's pretty much crowned himself over the past 7 weeks, hasn't he? Leading by a very comfortable margin. Bradley Holly is third behind Graham Wildmon, but just ahead of Jeremy Carter, Rodrigo Abreu, Darian Roy, Nathan Ray, Nicholas Schwartz, and Alex de Almeida are all in that little tight battle over P5 in the championship, and Jeff Evans just about hanging on to P10 in the GTP driver standings. In the teams, well, it's not a done deal. Whatterback Racing Overdrive are only, I say only, 28 points ahead of Solprec Precision Racing QC, who were themselves 43 points ahead of Pax Oceani, who are only 2 ahead of Blue McCaw. So it is tight in this team's battle, contrary to what we saw in the LMP3-GT4 series, but a few other teams with Solprec Precision Racing, Simcar fiercely forward, and Vice Motorsports a little bit further back in the championship picture. Over in the GT3s, though, a little bit tighter, isn't it? Brett Gardner leads the way, but behind him, it's a bit of a free-for-all. Jake Cummings, Ted Lovendick, and Chris Stewart, 2 points between those 3 drivers. It could go either, or any which way for P2 between those guys, and really for the title if Brett Gardner has a bit of a mare. Eric Fenson leads his brother William in 5th and 6th in the championship, with Bowie Suin and Evan Henneman tied on 2-5-1. Kerry Corcoran and Richard Saavedra round out the top 10, as they've been very consistent attendees so far this season. Tech Sport Academy by AMS, 696 points. They lead by 72 ahead of the Fenson brothers, which is a relatively comfortable margin at this stage. Drive Trainer Motorsport are a distant third, with DFL Racing and Tachyon Simsport, I should say, in the top 5. Selback Precision Racing, Big Fast Racing, Waterback Racing back row, and AGS Blackthorn Racing are the other teams competing in this GT3 teams standings. But with all of the standings cleared up, I hope that's cleared up for all of you at home. There's lots of numbers there. There's lots of arithmetic that we're going to have to be doing up here in the booth over the next couple of weeks, but we'll do our best to do it so that you don't have to. We can get onto the action here at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, and you can just about see there we're using the historic layout, clearly, and not the more modern one.
Indeed, and it's a bit of a weird one with Barcelona, because now I suppose that Grand Prix layout with the tight hairpin and the chicane at the end of the lap is now a historic layout as well, because pretty much no series are using that layout anymore, as Pat Pelchat is the first of our drivers to set a qualifying time, 1:29.0. That is a bit off what we saw from him in practice. 1:27.8 was the fastest time in practice from Pat, as the times flow in from our GTPs. Graham Wildman, second in the championship and currently second provisionally on the grid. Good initial lap from him, as we're still waiting on the first laps from our GT3 competitors. And Jake Cummings having drama on his first qualifying lap. He's going to escape back to the pits and try again, but that's a big blow there to Jake, who is, as you said, Dara, locked tight in that battle for second in GT3 standings.
A big mistake, really, wasn't it, through turn 5? Not somewhere where you see too many errors here at Barcelona, but an error there all the same, as Corey Saccone goes to the top of the time sheets. Now, Corey Saccone, has been fast all season when he's been here, but I think he'd admit it. A couple of races missed have cost him a chance, probably at the title, but he's fastest at the moment. But the GTPs, I think that's as tight as it ever has been this season, with the top three split by less than 0.04 of a second, less than a blink of an eye between those guys, as Eric Fenson popped himself up into 4th in the GT3. Teji Yankee, he was quickest for a split second, as he's the first one on track, it seems, but he has slipped back to 7th since, but looking to improve on his lap time in the 3:13.
Yeah, and Pat Pelchat improves on his GTP time, now down to a 27.7. That's more like it. Yeah, TJ, we've been following along with him over the course of the season, particularly in the mid-season. He's had some good races, but he's also had some poor luck as well. Both himself and Bowie Suin in those beautiful green Mustangs. They haven't quite gotten the results that they would have been hoping for. So maybe in the last 2 rounds of the season, they'll get it done. We'll see. Pelchat comes out again here to start a fresh qualifying run, as it looks like Rodrigo Abreu has done the exact same thing. It seems like here, in GTP at least, they want the opportunity to just go for those short runs rather than get all of their laps done at once, which puzzles me a little bit. It's a pretty cool track out there, 26 degrees Celsius, so I would imagine that the majority of drivers would just want to do all their laps in one go, make sure that the tires are fully up to temperature and pressure by that 4th and final lap.
Yeah, that track then seemingly as hot as my room is right now, because that feels toasty for me, but for a track that is not too hot, you'd expect it in the blaring sunshine to be up towards the 40s, maybe even touching the 50s if it is a really toasty track. So 26 is positively cool, as we have a look at the man with the T-Cam, Bradley Holly, in the 184, making his way through the final sector face. Incredibly concentrated on the job at hand, as you would expect, with speed that you can carry with these GTP cars. Graham Wildmon's improved to was 5th before Matthew Denise put himself up into 4th. Bradley Holly, can he go anywhere further up? Yes, he can, up into P3, but look at the gap that Pat Pelchat pulled out on that second run. 0.7 of a second he has over Rodrigo Abreu. That is a very, very big margin. But for Brett Gardner, can he get the lap time in? Yes, he can. 1/4 of a second he leads the field by.
Good stuff from Brett Gardner. So it's looking like, it's looking like stopping after a single lap and then going again is the way to go in this qualifying session. And I think an element of that is just this track has so many long corners. So there's a chance that the tires will get overheated over the course of a 4-lap qualifying run if you're pushing all the way around. Barcelona, of course, notorious for some heavy tire wear, especially on the left-hand side of the car. Stecker coming across the line, 143.4. That will not be an improvement on 5th at the moment. Doug Evans, meanwhile, that's a big improvement, up from 12th to 8th. Nice stuff there, 43.9. But he's going to be overcome there by Mark Kalin and Gabriel Alvarado, who put themselves into 7th and 11th. So the time's coming in thick and fast now as we're about to enter the final 2 minutes. And here comes Ted Lowendick in the Audi. Ted has had a run of fantastic results this season. He is embroiled in that battle for 2nd in the GT3 Championship, and we know how fast he is at circuits with high straight line speeds. He took pole position at Daytona, and he was in contention for the win at Road America. So I'm looking forward to some good performances from him here at Barcelona.
Yeah, and just to touch on your point as well, there doesn't really feel like there are any slow speed corners at this circuit. They are all fast and medium speed corners, because with the hairpins, with the hairpin removed and the chicane removed, really isn't any place for the big stoppers to be pulled out. Maybe down into turn 1, but that's still realistically a medium speed corner. You're not going to get too many big sends down there. And then the rest of the track are these high speed, fast flowing corners, like turn 3 where Ted Levendick is now, as he disappears from the circuit. Laps are going to have to be, have been started by drivers if they want to finish them now, as the timer ticks below 1:13 now. And one of those drivers is going to be Kerry Corcoran, running through the final corner. Good qualifying so far for the number 8 car. As I mentioned before, very consistent attendee, and that's why Kerry is up in the top 10 in the championship. And is there any improvement on the lap time? I don't believe that there is. So Corcoran sticking in P5, but if they can stay there, definitely a good result on the qualifying session for them.
Yeah, indeed. Got to be keeping an eye on the Fenson brothers' Ferraris as well. Eric Fenson currently sitting in P7, and if he wants to make up anything, he needs to grab at least a 1/10 of a second. He's a bit further down than he would like. William Fenson doing well at the moment in 4th place. Eric will try and join his brother up at the top of those standings. Out of the final corner he comes, and is this going to be the time that he wants? A 42.8 it looks like is going to be enough for him to get up into 6th place, put Sean Stecker down to 7th. Time for Ted Lowendick to come to the end of his next lap here. Is this going to be enough to overcome Brett Gardner and Corey Saccone in the Corvettes? A 42.1. It is an improvement, but it's not enough to elevate him onto the front row.
That was the final time in the qualifying session, so it really was going to be a statement if he could put himself onto the front row, but sadly just falling a little bit too short in the GT3 category. But in the GTPs, shock. I think everyone, I'm glad I was sitting down to look at this grid, because Pat Pelchat is leading us to green. 7/10 is the margin ahead of Rodrigo Abreu, and it really is now a procession to the title for the 919. Bradley Holly and Jerome Bartillon, one of the key men in PRL, lining up 3rd and 4th, with Graham Wildmon and Jeff Evans 5th and 6th. We roll on the grid to find Matthew Denise and Nathan Ray on row 4, with Darian Roy and Carsten Quint on row 5. Nicholas Schwartz, the last driver, to see where he can get in the order from last on the grid. In the GT3s, though, Brett Gardner leads us to green with a much reduced pole gap of just under 0.2 of a second to Corey Saccone in the 86 car. Ted Lowendick and William Fenson 3rd and 4th, with Kerry Corcoran with, I believe that's Corcoran's best qualifying of the season, if memory serves, in P5, ahead of Eric Fenson in P6. We roll on for Sean Stecker and Gabriel Alvarado on row 4. Jake Cummings and Sean Murphy row 5, with Richard Saavedra and Doug Evans. Doug Evans just outside the 2 seconds mark behind, but he's on row 6. But they are the first 12. We've only got 4 more. Teji Yankees in 13th, Mark Kalin 14th, Evan Henneman and Bowie Suen round out the grid, and there's not too much to split those two drivers either. So a nice, tight, compact grid of 16 cars in the GT3s. There's 11 cars in the GTPs, which means we had 26 at Hockenheim. We've got 27 at Barcelona, Reese.
Still some very solid attendance towards the end of the season, and don't forget that sign-ups are open for the next season of Precision Racing League Racing. There's been a few changes in the schedule. They're moving to a new format for the series. LMP3 and GT4 will move to a different night from the GTPs and GT3s that will move to Thursday nights. So make sure that you have that cleared in your calendar if you wish to be a part of this action. And what great action it has been all the way through the season. Now we can get the speed up in the GTPs and get ready for a magnificent start with the very long run to turn 1 at this place. Pat Pelchat will want to get on the power as soon as he can to start building that gap.
Build that gap, he surely will, unless something absolutely horrific befalls him, but he's only got 2 more corners to go before he really decides to get this race underway. It is Pat Pelchat who has been the dominant force all the way through this season that will be leading the field to green, and further back it's also going to be an interesting battle to see where Brett Gardner can do, to see if he can try and solidify his place at the top of the tree with only 1 round to go after this at the Circuit de la Sarthe. But for Pat Pelchat, this is going to be possibly his crowning moment if he can win this race and other results go his way, but he is going to lead us to green with a massive advantage. No question that he's going to be in the lead come turn 1, because they're all squabbling in behind him. A couple of drivers sitting very closely, and nearly a 3-wide moment as we make our way into the opening corner, but the top 2 are through, and they are all safely through in the GTPs. And if we look over to the GT3s, it's a little bit more of a free-for-all. 2-3 cars tailing our leader, Brett Gardner, down in towards the opening corner. It's a chicane to start off the lap, but around the outside it looks like that's Corey Saccone looking for the move.
Yeah, but Brett Gardner's going to have the inside for turn 3, and that should allow him to keep the position there. As soon as you get to the mid-corner, if you're on the outside, you are going to lose out. Ted Lowendick will stay in 3rd place for the time being as Pat Pelchat continues to move away. Bradley Holly, he got a massive move into 2nd off the start, but he's fallen back down to 4th with a poor exit from the hairpin, and this is going to make things very difficult in the GTP mid-pack. Oh, there's been a big incident in GT3 GT3, meanwhile, Corey Saccone is off the circuit, and it looks like Ted Lowendick losing his front bumper. Looks like there's been contact between them.
They are two of the top drivers in the class, so big moments early on in the race in the GT3s, and of course there is a 45-minute race here, 35-minute race earlier, and a 45-minute race here, and you just mentioned Jake Cummings having an awful start off wide down at turn 7 and 8, but a few of these guys try and have the time of their lives at the front, with the likes of Kerry Corcoran up to P3 at the moment. Great position to be in.
Yeah, good stuff from Kerry Corcoran so far. You see on the right side of your screen there, Lowendick, no nose, and that was due to T-boning Corey Saccone. Saccone, of course, was racing hard for the lead with Brett Gardner, but it looks like to me he lost the rear end in turn 4 and got a bit of a tank slapper going. So unfortunately, that's cleaned up Ted Lowendick, who's going to stay out for the time being. This is what happened. We see Bowie, oh, that's an incident behind there, and that's involved 3 cars there. It looks like Alvarado, Stecker, and Saavedra, who have all come together there in turn 4. But as it was happening up ahead of them, the big incident between oh dear, that's what happened to Cummings as well. Just looks like losing the rear and potentially making contact with the car ahead of him coming into the chicane.
Yeah, 2x2 through there, never going to work, and Cummings found out, I think, in the hardest way for all of those 4 guys, but the other 3 got off relatively scot-free, it seems. But we're looking at this battle now through the final sector as it gets so tight between Nathan Ray and Jeff Evans as they work their way back towards the main straight for what will be the 3rd time now in this race. We'll complete the 2nd lap of green flag running, start the 3rd with Jeff Evans tailing Nathan Ray as much as he can, trying to look for that move, but at the same time, look at that, Matthew Denise going for the move on Darian Roy just in behind, who's been caught a little bit napping. He was right in the battle for P6, but dropped off through the final couple of corners, and Matthew Denise, who showed some good pace in qualifying, said thank you very much, and he's up into P8 already.
Yeah, good stuff from Matthew Denise. This'll be some big trouble ahead of him, though, if these cars come together. Graham Wildman with an excellent start, as we're going to get another look at what happened to Corey Saccone here. You'll see he gets on the power across the curb, and then the rear end goes. He tries to correct it, and there's nowhere for Lowendick to go.
Yeah, Lowendick, a passenger there, isn't he? Which is the worst thing to be when you're the driver, is to feel like a passenger, and that's exactly what happened there for Ted Lowendick. But lucky, if anything, to still be maintaining his 5th place, because you could say that could have ended much worse for the 72 car, and good for him to still be fighting relatively competitively that top 5. This is the view. Oh my word.
Yeah, there was. He couldn't do anything. No,
I mean, if that happened to you in real life, you wouldn't be too pleased, would you?
No, certainly not. You're just minding your own business, trying to make your way out of the corner, and then that happens in the blink of an eye in front of you. I mean, what do you even do? Lowendick would have been thinking about the drivers behind him, whether or not they were alongside. Meanwhile, have a look at this battle. Doug Evans and Mark Kalin, they're holding on to 6th and 7th right now. Yankee and Henneman right behind them as well. This is a fantastic little battle for P6 and GT3, and all of these drivers finding themselves in positions they wouldn't have expected considering their qualifying performance.
I think there's been this is an interesting start to the race, of course, because there are quite a few spots in the top 10 which are occupied by drivers who, obviously with the greatest respect to them, haven't necessarily been there all the way through the season. The likes of Kerry Corcoran up in P3 is someone that we haven't seen up on the podium positions very much at all. Alvarado here, what's going on here? To the GT3 car, just looking like he's lost the rear end a little bit coming into the corner, and just saved the car, losing a couple of seconds, but not losing too much other than that. But back to my point about some of these drivers, the likes of TJ Yankee in P8, the likes of Doug Evans in P6, these are drivers that aren't necessarily up here week in, week out, but they're definitely going to be fighting very hard to keep these positions.
Yeah, so is Bradley Holly in GTP. He's getting rounded up by Jerome Bertiome at the moment. And remember, Jerome is the head administrator at the Precision Racing League, so you want to give him a little extra space. You don't want to be running into him and causing an incident. There's that battle for fourth going on beautifully, as it seems like Nicholas Schwartz had a little bit of an issue there. That's why we were focusing on him for just a moment, but he's back in the session and working his way through nicely in P11. Here comes the battle then. This is exactly what happened to Nicholas Schwartz. He just ran a little deep coming into the, I suppose you could call it a hairpin relatively compared to the other corners on the circuit, just running off into the gravel trap there. Henneman trying on Yankee.
Oh yeah, look at this. Oh my, oh no, he's just bounced his way over the curb. You could just see that happening for TJ Yankee. He bounced his way over the exit curb there, and it just lost all of the momentum, and the car just lifted up a little bit too high, lost all of that downforce, and he's ended up going into the wall on the inside, and that is not where he wanted to be, and that's disaster for TJ Yankee.
Yeah, I think Henneman might have tapped him in the rear as well on the way through too. That's a big shame indeed. That's obviously not what you want to see, but Henneman, I think, will escape the wrath of the stewards for that one. There wasn't really anything he could do to avoid, well, actually, from that point of view, it doesn't look like there was any contact. He did back out of it. Maybe Netco was involved just a little bit, but all the same, it's not going to help TJ Yankee much. Some massive damage to the front end there, and, well, we'll likely see him go into the pits earlier than most. Battle for second, meanwhile. Graham Wildman. It's time for Graham Cam. Let's go. Rodrigo Abreu defensive into turn one here as Graham tries his best in the Cadillac, and he's going to sweep around the outside of turn one, get up the inside into two, but Abreu's going to hold strong through turn three.
Yeah, and Graham looking to go all the way around the outside. If he can
God.
make this through this long right-hander, I think he's just about going to keep his foot in. Through turn four he will go. He's still there as Rodrigo Abreu is forced to leave him the room on the outside as Graham Wildman, he's still fighting this one. Inside for turn five will be his after 360 degrees of rotation all the way to the right. He's got the inside line. He's got the GT3 to help him as well. And Graham Wildman has taken P2 in dramatic circumstances. They go either side of the GT3 car, but Graham Wildman will cover that one off. And one of the best moves of the season undoubtedly there from the 53 car to put himself up into second again.
Yeah, that was fantastic from Graham Wildman there, and credit to Rodrigo Abreu as well for allowing the relevant space, but he's going way too deep into the hairpin. Oh my goodness gracious me, how did he pull that up?
I have no clue. That is some stoppers on the car. I'd be proud to have them in my road car. I feel like I need them sometimes, but oh my word, that was definitely a co-brown for Rodrigo Abreu, who is just now trying to pick his way through. Look at all of these GT3s. It is so close. You can see the 14 car just sends it deep, and it didn't really help that there was a GT3 on the apex. My word, look at the cars all over the road. There's one, oh, I can't count them all. They're nearly three wide coming onto the main straight, aren't they? As all of the cars really just combine, all the orders are now finding each other on the racetrack. I reckon the backside of the racetrack is absolutely blissfully empty. But look at this, down in towards the opening couple of corners. This is Jerome Bertiome. A little bit further back on Nathan Ray, but Jeff Evans and Matthew Denise are ready to pick up the pieces if Jerome has any issues. But there are cars everywhere, and this is so difficult to pick your way through safely.
Yeah, Jeff Evans was stuck on the inside there, had to switch to the outside to try and make his way through this heavy pack of GT3s, and Darian Roy and Jeff Evans making contact there as off in the gravel trap is Matthew Denise. That's a big shame for him. I mean, but this is what happens when you come up on GT3 traffic at a track where the pace difference between them in the corners is absolutely magnified. There's so many fast corners around here, and the GTPs are downforce machines. They love these fast corners, but not when there's a GT3 or 5 ahead of you.
Oh, and when they're three wide into turn 9, oh my lord, that is not what you want to be doing in the GT3. That is absolutely mental. I do not know how they've all made it out alive, quite frankly, but impressive to say the least. They're still side by side as they make the way into turn 10, as Mantis trying to pick his way through, and he's going to get overtaken by Carsten Quinn up the inside at turn 10, who's going outside, then he's going inside, looking for the lines. This is just insane racing at the moment between the GT3s and the GTPs. I mean, a lot of this isn't even really for position because it's just inter-class, but it is absolutely fantastic nonetheless. And then look at this at the front. It's Graham Wildmont fighting with Rodrigo Abreu, who's trying the Graham move at turn 1.
Oh, and have a look at Bradley Holly taking advantage of that. He sweeps through into third. I mean, I thought Holly was going to be falling off the wagon a little bit early on, but he's gotten that rhythm back, and he took great advantage of Abreu being slowed up through the opening turns there.
What a move that was from Bradley Holly, the man with the T-cam, looking to get himself up into P2 and chase after, well, you say chase after Pat Pelchat. It's been 12 minutes. The gap is 10 seconds. It's absolutely stunning stuff from the 919 car, and no wonder that he leads the championship by such a comfortable margin. But looking at Bradley Holly, I don't think I've ever seen Bradley Holly with more than a flicker of emotion on his face, but that's just because he is so in the zone. He is focused on the task at hand, and nothing's going to stop him from really trying to do exactly what he needs to do in this race, and that is get at least P2.
Yeah, he's gaining a little bit on Graham Wildman now, and they are clear of the majority of the traffic now. Looking further back in GT3, it looks like this is Saavedra trying to keep Gabriel Alvarado behind him. Saavedra has managed to make his way back into the top 10 after the incident on lap 1. Alvarado was involved in that as well. And here comes Jake Cummings trying to make some recovery after his own issues on the first lap, but he's finding it difficult to make up time.
Yeah, still down in P12, so having a little bit of a struggle, and this is Jake Cummings down in the bottom right-hand corner, soaring at that steering wheel, not looking like he's having the best of times, but he is doing the best job that he can at the moment, right on the back of Gabriel Alvarado, and realistically, he's less than 10 seconds off the back of Doug Evans in P6, so all is by no means lost for Jake Cummings in this race, but you'd have to say it's definitely going to be a cap on his performance that I don't think he's going to be able to get towards the podium, but having said that, we've got the likes of Kerry Corcoran on the podium, and credit to Kerry still being there, and in the number 8 car, doing a wonderful job in that Star Spangled Banner livery.
Yeah, he seems to have a nice gap over Eric Fenson as well. As far as things go, the traffic has worked out in Corcoran's favour. Corcoran, of course, streaming on his own Twitch channel, as he likes to post about in the InSim text chat before every race. But he's run a little bit wide there in the chicane. That'll give a bit more of an advantage to Fenson. It was 0.6 the difference between them on the last lap, as I think it might have been a tiny bit of oversteer that I saw there from I think it was Alvarado there that we saw. Is it Alvarado or is it Yankee? Either way, those two drivers in the Mustangs are bookending this fight, and TJ is off the wagon just a little bit as there's banging wheels ahead of them. Looks like that's Sean Murphy and Evan Henneman trading places.
That was quite a view to appear, wasn't it, as the camera changed angle, and we just saw some rubbing as racing, didn't we, down the back straight between turn 9 and 10, and in the end, coming out on top in that battle just about was the number 11 of Sean Murphy. This is what it was. You can just see them coming together as they make their way down the straight, and I really do think that, not necessarily spooked, but definitely put off Evan Henneman there.
Yeah, certainly did. Move our way back to the battle for second in GTP. Graham Wildman crucially getting a second's gap over Bradley Holly, who is now under pressure again from Rodrigo Abreu, who's getting a good run of pace in these last couple of laps. Now that they are clear of the traffic, they are free to race again, and they'll try their best indeed. Gabriel Alvarado, though, has turned around, and it looks like that happened at the chicane in the middle of the lap. We'll see what happened to him. No, it wasn't at the chicane. It was at turn 1. Just in too deep and losing the rear end. And Jake Cummings, absolutely quick on the reflexes, able to get past.
And lucky not to really meet anybody down at the apex of turn 2, where he himself round 4. But good to see him not causing any other collisions, and because that is always the worst thing, isn't it? When you know, something's happened to you, even if it's your own mistake or someone else has hit you off, but then cause a further collision by an unsafe rejoin. So always good to see some safe rejoins from the drivers, as it just means that the problem is contained. But look at some of these battles. We had that battle that we were just showing through the opening few corners, and then we can look towards the back of the GT3 field, because Sean Stecker is fighting this one out at the moment with Richard Saavedra, but also just behind him Bowie Suen in the number 21 guy, who's keen to get himself into the top 12. So such good, it is just so good to see all of these drivers being able to race so freely with each other, and good to see so many battles on track.
Yeah, Bowie Suen's had a bit of a quiet race, but it's been a profitable one. Up 3 positions for the number 21, the 919 at the front of the field. Pat Pelshard, his lead has ballooned to 13 seconds, and now we will see what the next run through traffic does for him. He's about to come up on, I believe that's TJ Yankee that he's getting his way past there, and it is. So Pelshard starting his 12th lap, still setting the fastest times in the field, a 28.7 on that lap with no traffic to speak of. But now we'll wait and see as he comes into the GT3 battles. The next couple of laps are going to be slower for our GTP leader, and that might give half a chance for Wildman, Holly, Abrao and Ray to make up some time.
But we also have to say that we did see how efficiently Pat Pelshard worked his way through this traffic. So you'd think that however long it takes him, even if that gap does come down, you'd think it would increase back up again, as Gabriel Alvarado having some issues. Hopefully he doesn't cause any issues, and thankfully there's a nice little bit of clear track for him to slot back into.
Yeah, it's a shame there for Alvarado. I think we've seen a bit of the same from all of those Mustangs there. They're just having a bit of trouble with the rear end. It seems like Yankee and Suen are able to better handle it than Alvarado at the moment. Shame for Gabriel, but crucially, he's still out there and still plugging away. We'll be able to get some points from this. You can't say the same for Corey Sircone, who remains our only retirement so far in this race.
Yeah, I mean, Corey turned up and he had a great qualifying session, and it was over really before it began, wasn't it, for him, which is such a shame. But at least he can have a bit of a snack, maybe go off and watch whatever sport he may be enjoying on this fine Monday evening. But this is the battle for P2 in the GTPs. It's not necessarily the tightest, with Bradley Holly dropping a little bit back as they make their way through the traffic, but right in the battle as well. You can't count out Rodrigo Abrao and Nathan Ray, who are stalking Bradley Holly on his quest to chase down Graham Wildman for P2. And all 4 of these guys very much in championship picture when it comes to the minor places. I say minor places, I'm still talking about P2 in the championship, P3, P4. But I think Pat Pelshard's going to wrap up the title pretty easily. So for these guys, if you're thinking that Pat Pelshard is a bit like an alien, this is really their title to win. Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll see what kinds of times Rodrigo Abrao can set here. I mean, Holly didn't have a good last lap, 1:31.0 versus a 30.2 for Abrao and a 30.5 for Nathan Ray. The gaps are just ebbing and flowing here in the battle for the GTP podium. All these drivers are making up their pace in different stages of the race at the moment, and I think it's all going to come down to who is the most efficient at working their way through traffic. Holly is coming up now on one of the Mustangs here, and you see he had a bit of trouble picking the line on the exit there. That gives a crucial chance to Rodrigo Abrao, but Abrao himself overshooting the apex a little bit, losing that chance for the time being. But they're coming up on traffic now into the final corners. No, Bradley Holly is going to decide it's time to come into the pits. First driver to come in, and his Waterback stablemate Mark Kalin is going to come in as well from the GT3s. So those are our first scheduled pit stops. Yeah, and they are 20 minutes into the race, a little bit longer than we're used to seeing the first scheduled pit stops, I think it's fair to say. We often see them really in the first 10 minutes, get them out of the way, get yourself to a good position and then go, but everyone going a little bit longer in this race than we have previously seen. This is looking not very nice. There's the contact as Abrao and Nathan Ray make their way through. But who was that in the end? That was going to be
Henneman.
A few of these, yeah, thank you. These GT3 drivers that are just getting caught up in these battles because as the GTPs go side by side, if the GT3s are anywhere near each other, they're just collateral at this point, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's a similar situation to what we saw in LMP3 and GT4 earlier, as this onboard here will tell the story. Deary me. Yeah. The GT3s, they don't have as much downforce as the GTPs do. They can't go through the corners as fast. They rely a bit more on mechanical grips, so they need to be able to track all the way out to the outsides of fast corners like turn 3. Oh my god, the pincer move here. Nathan Ray is going to try around the outside of a brow. See, the GTPs can do that quite easily. The GT3s can't, and that's the reason why you saw that contact between Brow and Henneman. Round the outside of the final corner, Brow has to give Ray space, and the move into third spot for the time being. That's effective fourth place, I believe, with Bradley Holly already coming into the pits. That was a great set of driving there from Ray.
Yeah, I mean, all the way around the outside, 3 long, fast right-handers. What a move for the number 23 car to put himself up into P3, and you have to say Rodrigo Brow at the moment, you've got to feel somewhat bad for him. He is on the receiving end of some fantastic overtaking moves at the moment, and we're not even halfway through this race yet. So still lots to unfold here, but we've got pitters, we've got off strategies, we've got inter-class battles, it feels like. We've got definite class battles, we've got championship battles. It is all going on here in Barcelona in the penultimate round of the GTP-GT3 series here in the PRL on RaceSpotTV on a Monday night. Pleasure to have your company here. As we can, I mean, this is the first time we've really been able to catch our breath in the first 22 minutes or so, hasn't it? As it had just been action, 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 and in the foreground you can still see more GTPs overtaking some GT3s.
Yes, we're well in the middle stage of the race now. Looks like I'd say about 16 laps to go for our leader, Pat Pelchard, as Nicholas Schwartz and Matthew Denise well outside the big battles at the front of the field, but they are having a lovely little fight of their own. And Denise, I think, struggling a little bit to get the power down and keep the car stable through the mid-corner. He's fresh out of the pits, you got to remember, is Denise. He only just came out. Schwartz pitted a lap before him, and it looks like those tyres are more up to temperature for the number 9.
Yeah, and it looks like Schwartz is gaining away from Matthew Denise at the moment, and he's looking in a good spot on the racetrack at the moment. Nice bit of clean air in front of him. Bradley Holly is 8 seconds up the road, but he can drive into a nice little bit of clean air without having to worry about any traffic for at least the next lap or so, you would think. But some of that traffic is here. It's battle for P10 in the GT3s. Evan Henneman and Sean Stecker fighting it towards turn 1, and they've got some company emerging as they make their way through turns 1 and turn 2. But I think that company should disappear as they make their way through turn 3, and you can just see how ridiculous that overspeed is. But Evan Henneman washing a little bit high up off the racetrack, losing a little bit of that aero load as the air washes over from the GTP, and through comes Sean Stecker to the inside. Very opportunistic, very effective, and now very much so inside the top 10.
Yeah, Stecker having a good run in the last few laps. Remember, he was one of the drivers involved in that incident at turn 4 on lap 1. We saw him in the gravel trap as the battle between Bradley Holly and Nathan Ray continues on here. Holly and Ray both having come into the pits now. Ray is fresh out at the moment, and well, half a lap on this new set of tyres, and Bradley Holly is wasting no time flashing the lights here and saying, hey, look, I'm involved in a battle here. If you guys aren't involved in a battle in front of me, you better get out of the way.
This is just carnage, really. I mean, there's no attrition in this race, but it is just carnage of moves, and it's carnage of stability, and not just the drivers' thoughts and feelings, but in their positions as well, because they've been up and down and side. Oh, and that really is side to side for Nathan Ray, not just in the running order, but my word, what a save from the number 23 car. We are really seeing some Pato Award quality saves, aren't we, this evening? That's at least the second or third that we've seen, particularly after the wet race at Hockenheim, which requires quite a lot of saving through the drifts.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Ray caught the, that was one save, and then he decided to widen the entry, caught the grass on entry as well. Goodness me, what lightning quick reflexes we saw there from the number 23. If it was me, I would have spun it.
McLaren might be lining him up for the number 6 car in IndyCar in the not too distant future with the revolving door that's going on down there. So maybe he'll get a call up soon, because that really was special to keep the car under control, Nathan Ray. And let's see if it can give him that little bit of a confidence boost, or maybe it might give him a little bit of a pause for thought. But maybe that confidence boost to try and go after Bradley Holly, who's really not that far up the road either. Carsten Quint isn't. So moves are going to have to be made soon, and they're going to have to be made effectively. Not just by them, but also by Jerome Barthiaume, who is looking for Rodrigo Abreu to lose his P3, and for Jerome Barthiaume to get onto the podium positions, which I think it's fair to say haven't been his friend in the last couple of weeks. Barthiaume, I think, has been taken out in at least 2 of the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, not ideal for Jerome, but Carsten Quint there coming into the pits, he was initially a bit slow. Bradley Holly making his way past him. It looks like he runs deep on the exit here and just collects the gravel trap. That's a shame there for him, but fortunately a pit stop in this race will give him a chance to get things reset. He is dealing with a bit of damage to the front bumper, so probably not as much front downforce as he'd like.
Yeah, and that may be why he was thinking about maybe coming into the pit lane. And there is Pat Pelchat coming into the pit lane, our leader, our champion-elect, you'd have to say, coming in for the 919. Will Graham Wilborn follow, or will Pat Pelchat be allowed to lead this race from start to finish? Let's find out. I think Graham is coming in. Yes, he is. So I think Pat Pelchat is going to be allowed a lights to flag victory, or maybe not, because Abreu and Jerome look like they're going through, and Pat Pelchat has not left his box yet. And in the end, it will be Rodrigo Abreu who leads the lap, and Jerome Barthiaume, as you said, the head administrator here at PRL, can he lead a lap in the Monday Night League?
We'll have to wait and see. If he does decide to pit this lap, well, the start-finish line comes up pretty quick, so he might just cross the line in the lead, albeit in the pits. So we'll see from here. Rodrigo Abreu still trying his best to hold on to that effective third place, I think, at this point, as the majority of our GTPs have now come in. It's just our top 3 of Abreu, Bertium, and Darian Roy that have yet to come into the pits. It's a bit of a different story in the GT3s as Kerry Corcoran comes in from 3rd spot. Brett Gardner and William Fenson are going to continue on. Doug Evans, who we ride on board with in both the virtual and real world, still holding on to 4th spot, and he is another one of the many drivers that haven't come into the pits yet. The GT3s are pushing the stint a lot harder than the GTPs are.
It's great to see, actually, that view of Jeff Evans there, or sorry, Doug Evans there, I apologise, just to kind of see what he's looking at. He's got that timing page above his sim. He can look at that when he's going down the straights. He can kind of get the information that he needs, and then he's got that 3-monitor setup. It's always nice to see the different setups, because of course you can pretty much do it how you like. You could have the one in the middle, you're sat on a desk chair, even a kitchen chair, racing on your wheel, or you could have a full sim rig setup, or anything in between, which is what we're seeing here with Doug Evans. And it is really good to get an insight into what these drivers are looking at, into how they're racing, and into really what suits them, because every driver is different, every driver has their own preferences, and clearly Doug likes to have all of that information right on top of his screen.
Yeah, indeed. He'll get a full picture of what's going on in the race and going on around him from that. It'll allow him to plan his maneuvers a little better as well. So now moving up to 2nd in GTP is Darian Roy, but Pat Pelchat, having just come out of the pits a lap ago, is rounding him up. We also saw that Jerome Bertium has decided to come into the pits, so he will not lead a lap here. Rodrigo Abreu will, though. and we'll wait and see if Abrao decides to come in on this lap. I would imagine that Darian Roy is going to come in as well, as here we go between Nathan Ray and Jerome Bertium. Ray's tyres are already up to temperature, and he's got a lot of grip at hand. Bertium just getting back into the rhythm, having come straight out of the pits, as it's a pit party in GT3. Look at this here from Doug Evans, Jake Cummings, and Sean Murphy. And we're seeing a fourth car come in behind. I believe that's Evan Henneman. So Corcoran and Fenson will continue on, having come into the pits already. And, well, interesting to see that Darian Royce decided not to come in, and neither has Rodrigo Abrao. So they're going to try and push this stint a little further. Don't know why Darian's flashing the headlights there. It doesn't look like there's... Okay, well, he's flashing the lights as a signal to say, Pat, you can go by me, but I don't think Pat saw that.
I don't think he did, but it's not going to matter regardless because Pat is through and Darian Roy is back in P3, and Pat's going to have that a little bit of clean air now getting through the GT3 to plough into. But I did have a thought, and I will be honest, I'm going to say it right now. We are in Spain. It's normally a pit party. Could we call it a stopping siesta?
Yes. I like that.
I thought about that immediately. I wrote it down, and I was far too proud of it not to say. Even if it got a very poor response. But Brett Gardner's joining in. He's led this race from start to finish. Let's see if he will continue to do so, or whether William Fenson will carry on round. Brett Gardner, of course, championship leader, hoping to effectively put a hand on that trophy, as Pat Pelchat has really two hands and a foot at the moment on it. As we go into the final round at the Circuit de la Sarthe, Fenson has come in, which means that Gardner will almost certainly lead from start to finish, without some kind of mare happening in the final 13 minutes. But he leads along with Rodrigo Abrao, but really it's Pat Pelchat leading this race, as Abrao needing that pit stop in the not too distant future. And you'd think he'd come in soon, but he is sticking it out for a longer period than I think we thought he would.
Yeah, well, you can't say the same for Richard Saavedra and Sean Stecker, who come in. They're followed by Bowie Suen in the GT3s. So let's see what they can do to hold on to their positions in the top 10. Remember, they were battling with the likes of Cummings, Murphy, and Henneman earlier, so a lot of potential there. Nathan Ray is continuing to monster the curbs in the final sector there. Jerome Bertium is starting to catch back up to him. I think anytime we've looked at Nathan Ray, something spectacular has been going on. He's going to move past, I believe that's Cummings or Gardner potentially. I think it might be Cummings that they've just made their way past there in the 95. But nice and clean, plenty of space being given through the classes, through the first turns. Yeah, Darian Roy and Rodrigo Abrao going seems abnormally long at the moment in the GTPs. I'm wondering what their end game is here. Maybe they're just trying to get some time on a lighter fuel load here to try and gain some track position and take advantage, of course, of the traffic spreading out. That's something that you do have to think about in a multi-class race. You pit early, the other field is still together, and you have to make your way through them. But Abrao's decided now is the time for his pit stop.
Yeah, it's nearly taken him a full race distance in the LMP3-GT4 challenge. It's been 33.5 minutes, but finally, with Abrao and Darian Roy have found themselves to the pit lane, and we're really going to get a perfect picture as to where everyone sits in this race with only 11 minutes left to run. Side-by-side action, though, in the GT3s, as we are watching a big old dogfight between Jake Cummings and Richard Saavedra, side-by-side between the 95 and the 999, but looking to come through as well is the number 51 of Jeff Evans, just try and get through, in the pink and white car, looking resplendent in the evening light, but just about making his way through. Didn't want to get in the way of this battle, I don't think, because Sean Murphy is on hand to pick up any kind of scraps if these two leave any. But they'll make their way down towards turn one once again, and despite the fact we've been racing for 35 minutes, we are still seeing all of these tight battles on track, which is great to see.
I will make one correction. It is not the evening light that we are seeing, it's the morning light. It's 9:26 a.m. in sim time, a fixed time in this series. And evidently, the European summer, daylight savings, etc. Apparently, it's quite dark even at nearly 9:30 in the morning here in Spain.
I can believe that, though, because Spain is a little bit far west for the time zone that it's in, so I can believe that it would be it's dark at 9:30 in the morning, but it does seem very dark, doesn't it? It feels more like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning than 9:30, but hey-ho, who are we to judge? The game is probably right, and if we argue with it, we're going to get an answer with code, aren't we? So we're not going to win that one. But I don't think the drivers are going to be too fussed. I think it's quite a nice light to be in, because it's not too bright, there's not really any glare for the drivers to worry about. It's also not dark enough that you really need those lights. It's kind of a nice medium, that's what I'm looking for, a nice medium between the bright of the day and then the real dark of the night, but it's not worked out well down here. Richard Saavedra in the 999 car, there's another GTP ducking and diving his way through, but Saavedra, something's happened to him down at turn 9. Oh, and more happening at turn 10.
Yeah, looks like some big damage to the side of Richard Saavedra, and that is because the Ferrari of Sean Murphy ran into him after Saavedra clobbered the anti-cut curb at the apex of this turn at the top of the hill. You see him lose it there, and there's not much Murphy can do from there. The car was already loaded up and tracking to the outside of the corner. He couldn't make many alterations to his line.
And in the end, he is going to drop back a few positions, but he's still in the fight. There's still drivers around, and that's exactly why we love this series. You can just see him. Oh no, getting on that curb and then getting collected. I think we'd have loved him, actually, to the point where he was spun round a little bit more. So, I mean, you could say he was helped, but I don't think it would have helped with the damage on the side of the car. T-boned like that, but yeah, there's only 9 minutes left of this race. It's going to be difficult to recover too much of that lost time, especially if he needs a pit stop. So it'll be difficult for him. We're also hearing there's a drive-through for the number 3, Gabriel Alvarado. You can just about see him in the pit lane there as the tower ticks on. He's lost out to Teiji Yankee. Hey. Oh, I've lost the ability to speak.
Take 4.
Hey, TJ.
Dude, are you okay?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how I've read that. Oh no.
I'll save you. TJ Yankee getting the position there with Doug Evans as well, chasing him down here for the 3rd last running position on track at the moment. Yeah, looked like Gabriel Alvarado. I mean, we'd seen him have a lot of trouble in the early stages of the race, keeping the car stable, and that would have been, you know, the incidents ticking up, loss of control, 2x, off track, 1x, etc., etc. So, yeah, he has exceeded the incident limit and paid the price with an iRacing issued drive-through penalty. Back to the battle for 10th as well. Oh, Saavedra's coming in, and no surprise to see that. He had some damage that he needed to overcome, and you never know, he might have exceeded the incident limit himself, having been off track a few times tonight.
I can say Saavedra, but I can't say TJ, which is impressive. And I have to say, I did note that Dustin Ellis up in the broadcast booth, not missing a beat with the little name tag he put on. So thanks to Dustin for that. But we've only got 7 minutes left. I think my brain's just being fried by the racing. I'll go with that as an excuse. But look at this, nearly Rodrigo Abreu to the inside of the penultimate corner. That looked a little bit sketchy, but he's made it through, and as does Jerome Bartio. And he's right on the back here because he is not far off a P4. And after the last couple of weeks where he's not finished the race, I don't think he'd be upset with a P4 whatsoever.
Yeah, certainly. It's been a good race from everyone involved in the top 6 in GTP at the moment, but this gap is continuing to close here between TJ Yankee and Doug Evans. Gabriel Alvarado, despite his trip through the pit lane, is starting to catch up on these two. When you have cars running close, running side by side through the corners, they are costing each other time. And so TJ will be thinking, okay, Gabriel's coming up on us. I need to put the power down here and try to put some distance between myself and Doug.
Yeah, look at this, down. That's TJ Yankee. I'm going to make sure I get this right now, all the way to the end. Trying to concentrate, but you can just see him. Oh, no!
Oh, no. He's gone.
No.
TJ Yankee is out of the race, and you can see the disappointment on his features there. That's such a shame. He has lost the front bumper, he's lost the rear wing, and he's going to pull straight off the circuit there. The suspension is destroyed, so that is our second retirement from this race with only 5.5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, and that's it's going to be gutting, isn't it? From such a good race as well. Even if the position in the end wasn't going to necessarily be right up there, an enjoyable race coming to an end like that. That's not how you want it to end, and that is so frustrating. I'd have to say, there was quite a comedic timing of that rear wing flying off. That was a good 3-4 seconds after contact was actually made with the barrier. But that's iRacing for you, what we know and love. But I don't think DJ is going to be finding the funny side of that. I just hope he doesn't look back me mispronouncing his name in the near future. But look, this is a bold move. You can't be making that move. Surely that's far too late into the corner.
No, yeah, certainly not. I mean, Nathan Ray had considerable overspeed on TJ there, but that's one of the corners where the GTPs are so much faster than the GT3s. It's often better to just back off and wait for the exit. I know that Nathan would have been thinking about his battle with Bradley Holly at the time, but yeah, you have to make split-second decisions, and I think in that moment, Nathan Ray made the wrong one.
Yeah, it's so disappointing, isn't it? Both of them, really, because I think Nathan will know what he's done and probably hold his hands up for that one, because it was just such a late move, and it was pretty clear to see that it wasn't the smartest of moves, and I think he'll probably hold his hands up to that one. But he also knows that he's taken out someone from the way, so I think there's going to be a little bit of disappointment in there. But for Rodrigo Abreu, is this something he could pounce upon? 4 minutes left. It's going to be difficult too, because there's just not much time to make the move stick. But with Nathan Ray trying to chase down Bradley Holly with that moment hanging over his head, this could definitely be a chance for number 14.
Yeah, definitely could be. Rodrigo still chasing them down, and Jerome Bertiome isn't too far back either. He's only about another second that he can make up here. Remember that Ray, with that contact with TJ Yankee, now has a bit of damage to his left-hand side, so he won't be getting as much downforce as he wants through these fast corners. The GTPs do tend to survive that sort of minor damage very nicely, but regardless, it'll still be a confidence thing, I think, as well. Ray will be thinking, oh, how fast can I take these corners, and potentially give some mental real estate over to that rather than chasing down Bradley, while Rodrigo Abreu continues his staunch march forward to try and grab that 4th place.
And it's going to be tight, I think, towards the end, but it's also going to be tight. I wonder where Pat Pelchat is on the circuit, because I think we may only have 2 more laps.
He's just crossed the start-finish line.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to have 2 more laps then in this race, which means that there's only 2 more trips to turn 1, 2 more trips to turn 10 now for these guys. And the trips and the opportunities really are running out for anybody to make a difference on the podium when you've got Graham very comfortably sitting in P2 and Bradley Holly not so comfortably sitting in P3 with the chasing pack behind him. 3 drivers are trying to hunt him down, but nothing happening for the time being. Look at that. That's a massive check-up as they run through the final corner for Bradley Holly. He was checked up behind the GT3 car, and through comes Nathan Ray. I was just talking about how much opportunity he would have left in this race, and he's going to use it if he can. Outside line for Bradley Holly. Oh, contact, but he keeps it in a straight line. I don't know how Nathan Ray hasn't gone around there.
Yeah, Nathan, I think not too happy with that one. Bradley Holly probably turned in a bit early, and now Ray is compromised. Rodrigo Abreu right here to take advantage, but he's not going to go for the move just yet. He's going to widen the entry into turn 4 and try and get something done potentially on the exit of the hairpin. You see how hard he's pushing, struggling with the car snapping on the way out of those fast turns. More traffic here. That's one of the Tech Sport Academy by AMS cars, and it is not Brett Gardner. It's Jake Cummings that they have to make their way past, and there's contact between Abreu and Cummings, and Abreu I think hoping that Cummings was just going to let them go, but Cummings had the right to continue at the pace that he was, and that has cost Rodrigo Abreu a chance at 4th and potentially a podium.
Ollie Ray and Abreu now, all in the last 5 minutes, have had their issues with traffic in the closing stages here. It has been dramatic, to say the least, but Bradley Holly looks like he might just about have enough to hold on here. He's got 1 more lap to negotiate, and there may be a couple of other trip hazards left for him to negotiate, but he's got a nice clear bit of track in front of him. No GT3s to worry about as he starts his final lap of the race, a good 34 seconds behind Pat Pelchat, who leads us through this closing lap. But Nathan Ray nowhere near close enough to make that move. And we're also hearing that Jake Cummings is going to get a drive-through, probably based off of the fact that he picked up that incident point with the contact in turn 7 and 8. So I don't think he'll be too pleased about that one.
No, if I was Jake Cummings, I'd be fuming because that was through no fault of his own, that incident. It was just a GTP coming in way too hot and hitting him off the circuit. And of course, it's a no-fault incident system in iRacing. You get contact with another car, both you and the car you hit get 4 incident points. So, yeah, I think Cummings will feel a bit shortchanged there as Pat Pelchat comes through the final corner. And we've seen this so many times before this season, Dara. It's another dominant victory for our champion-elect.
Yeah, 26 seconds, maybe even 27, may be the pick of the bunch over the course of the 8 races that we've had so far in the GTP-GT3 series here in PRL in Season 3 of 2024, but Pat Pelchat being the class of the field yet again. Graham Wildmon will come home for second, but this is the battle we've been watching for P3. Graham Wildmon, Bradley Holl, I should say, negotiating that final GT3 car with ease, and he will find himself... Oh, actually, I think the GT3 car pulled out of the way. Nathan Ray, though, slowing down to the final couple of corners. He's lost out to Rodrigo Abreu. Can Jerome get him towards the line? This is going to be tight. I think he will, and yes, the 217, Jerome Bartiome, going to pick up P5 on the line, and Nathan Ray, instead of running out of fuel at the end of the race.
I think so. Yeah, I was looking at him. I'm looking at him now. He was coming through the third last corner and the car was choking. So Nathan Ray didn't put enough fuel in at the pit stop. That's disastrous for him. He was in for a solid 4th place finish, but losing 2 more spots right at the end.
And Brett Gardner, he's going to get his victory lap. Look at that. William Fenton, he's listed as +1 lap because he finished behind Pat Pelchat, got lapped that one more time by the 919 car, and it means that Brett Gardner can just cruise home. No worries in the world for him, because there's no one behind him that can beat him. He's travelled further than anybody else in this race. He has got this race victory nailed on, but he will proceed to take it through the final couple of corners. And Brett Gardner, he's not as comfortable in that championship picture as Pat Pelchat, but he is absolutely going for it as hard as the 919, because Brett Gardner, he definitely has one, if not 2 hands on the title now, with a win here at Barcelona. William Fenton being in P2 is going to help him out no end in the championship battle with the likes of with the chasing pack, because it's a quite close chasing pack. I couldn't name you all of them because there's a good 4 or 5 of them, but we can run you through exactly who finished where in this race here this evening. The race winner in the GTP category, 30 laps decided it, and it was Pat Pelchat who won in the end by 27.7 seconds. An absolutely dominant drive by the Solpec Precision Racing QC driver, ahead of Graham Wildmon, who is his closest rival in the championship, but I don't think he's really going to be a rival for much longer. Bradley Holly was P3, and a very good result for the man with the T-Cam, with Rodrigo Abreu and Jerome Bertione picking up 4th and 5th. The teammates, Nathan Ray and Darian Roy, 6th and 7th, ahead of Jeff Evans, Matthew Denise and Nicholas Schwartz in the top 10. Final driver in this list was Carsten Quint, who finished a lap down, but all 11 GTPs finding the checkered flag. In the GT3s, it was Brett Gardner who won, and everyone says a lap, but that doesn't tell the story. He wasn't as comfortable, but William Benson finishing second, a very good result for him, and an even better result, I'm very pleased to say, for Kerry Corcoran to finish in P3. First podium for the number 8 car in round 8 of the season, and fully well deserved. It's going to shoot Kerry up the standings with 1 more round to go. Eric Benson 4th, ahead of Ted Lovendick in 5th, and he was ahead of Mark Kalin, Sean Stecker, Sean Murphy, Evan Henneman and Bowie Seward, who were the top 10 drivers in the GT3s. Jake Cummings, Gabriel Alvarado and Doug Evans were the other finishers. Richard Saavedra may have finished, but another lap down with TJ Yankee and Corey Saccone not quite seeing the flag. Corey Saccone after that early incident, TJ Yankee after that late race incident that we saw up at turn 9. But they are the results that we have been of the race that we have been absolutely treated to, Reese. But I think the first man we can talk to is none other. Of course, it has to be Pat Pelchat, Reese.
Yeah, indeed. Congratulations once again, Pat. You've got 2 hands on that trophy now. Another sheer domination drive from you, but certainly wouldn't have come easy with how difficult the traffic was here.
No, well, I gotta say that Catalunya is probably one of my of the tracks I don't like, but I'm pretty decent at, so that really helps. But yeah, traffic was speaking with the guys after race, like the traffic was really hit or miss. I think I got pretty lucky, managed that pretty well, but some of my teammates they got hit pretty hard by it.
Yeah, I think this circuit more than any other shows the sheer difference between the GTPs and GT3s in terms of mid-corner speed. So, from your perspective, what was it like navigating that traffic? How far ahead were you planning your moves?
It's always like trying to see like where the GT3s are compared to you, going to a certain sector. So as you run more and more laps through traffic, you kind of know that if you get you see that GT3 in T1 while you're 2/3 of the way down the main straight, well, you're probably gonna hit it like in the middle of T3 or T4. So it's always about just practicing, learning the traffic, and just gauge to where you're gonna pass it.
All right, well, another victory on board for you here in Spain. We go to France for the final round to the historic city of Le Mans. Obviously, a track that these cars are very familiar with, and I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, quite a bit. I think we ran it quite a lot in June, 224 hours, and I hope you guys are gonna bring your umbrellas because it's gonna rain.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a big element to the racing here, and I think that also raises the issue, Pat, of exactly where the rain's going to be falling on the circuit. It's such a big track, so you might be seeing some parts of the track a lot less wet than others.
Absolutely, yeah. It's gonna be, and the chances are not like 100%, at like 60 something percent. So it might start dry and turn wet, or start wet and turn dry. So we never know. And the track is so big, it's gonna start raining at Molson Corner, while and the Porsche curves is still dry. So yeah, it's a lot of fun racing in the rain there. I'm really looking forward to it.
As are we, Pat. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll hopefully see you again next week.
Hell yeah, thank you guys.
Pat Pelshart with a great run there. And the Graham Wilburn fan club, Dara, is going to be very happy because their man finished second.
Yeah, evening, Graham. Congratulations on P2. Another very good result from you. It didn't look like it was the most eventful race for you, but talk us through the traffic, because some of it was really quite hectic. How was it to try and pick your way through some of the big clumps of the GT3s?
Yeah, definitely, running theme for this season has been my poor qualifying. So the traffic helped me out there in the beginning of the race. There's a couple corners on this one. If you catch it at the wrong time, it's really going to check you up and cost you nearly a second a lap time. That happened to Rodrigo in front of me. I was able to capitalize on it, and luckily we weren't caught out too badly immediately afterwards, so we were able to get out in front.
I mean, with Pat Pelshart leading the championship by an obscene amount of points, you are really leading the best of the rest. That must give you a little bit of a boost as well, knowing that everyone around you who's all been fighting for Pat has also been trying to fight with you as well. Do you think you can try and take home P2 in the championship next week?
I think I definitely did the first half of the job tonight. I know next week's not a drop week, so you got to make sure that you at least finish half the race. I guess it just says something for the consistency of myself and a couple of the other guys here on the front end of things. It's definitely not easy to drive these cars, and I'm kind of proud of all of us for making it this far.
Now, I mean, are you looking forward to the prospect of a wet Circuit de la Sarthe to close out the season?
Well, last wet track we had, I was leading the race for a good chunk of it, so let's hope that luck kind of continues, and I'm going to hope the Cadillac is quite strong there.
And we hope for you too, Graham. Congratulations on P2, and hopefully we'll speak to you again next week in a more championship-winning moment. Or not quite winning, but up in the top 3.
Yep, thanks, fellas.
Very well done there. I feel bad saying that he can't win the championship race, but I think it's nearly mathematically possible now.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. For now, we'll switch our attention to Bradley Holly, who had a solid drive to third place, but it didn't come easy, Bradley. You were embroiled in that fight with the likes of Rodrigo Abreu and Nathan Ray all the way through.
Yeah, the traffic definitely held me up for a couple laps and made it interesting, and then made a mistake and crowded him a little bit, caused some netcode contact, got him loose in turn 1, and I feel bad for that.
Well, regardless, you did still come away with a solid P3 finish, and it's backed up your consistent run of results throughout the season, including that win back at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So, looking back at the season in general, I'd say it's been there's been some ups, there's been some downs, but overall quite a bit of success.
Yeah, definitely wish last week went a little bit better. I had some connection issues last week, and that hurt my chances of a top 3 potentially, and been putting in a lot of work to get faster, and I still have some work to catch Pat, but maybe I could do that over time.
Maybe you can indeed. Well, congratulations on the podium once more, Bradley, and all the best for Le Mans.
Thank you very much.
Bradley Holly there, P3 in GTP. GT3 winner is not joining us, but I do think, Darragh, we will have a chance to chat to William Fenson, who grabbed second.
Yeah, William, welcome in. Congratulations on the P2. Not quite to be for the race win, but a very good result in a very hectic race. Talk us through how you're feeling at the moment.
Yeah, I'll happily take a P2 in that one. I didn't have the pace for a podium. So the P2 is nice to have. Brett was just too fast today. He got away and I had no chance of battling with him, unfortunately.
I mean, still, you showed some fantastic pace to come through in P2 in that field. There were some very, very tight battles. I mean, does this give you the boost going into the final round? Because, of course, you're still in that hunt for at least P2 in the championship.
It's wet next week, so no. The Ferrari in the wet is not much fun, so I'll just do a survival race next week, and I think I'll just use this podium to look forward to next season.
Hey, we're all looking forward to next season. We're hoping you have a good run of it as well, but hopefully we'll speak to you next week after the race, but clearly you're not going to be making any promises. Thanks, William.
No, thanks, guys.
Good stuff from William Fenson there.
Yeah, no, apologies.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, finally, we're joined by, Kerry Corcoran was there in the channel with us for a moment, but it seems like he dragged himself back into the waiting for interview chat, so I'm not sure if we're going to get a chance to talk to him. We'll try again one more time here. Kerry, congratulations on the 3rd spot. An excellent qualifying that resulted in your best result of the season. Okay, he's decided that he doesn't want an interview, apparently. Or there's been some technical issues on his side that are preventing him from talking to us. So I think we might have to skip Kerry Corcoran for now, Darragh. And that will be the end of the show. Still, congratulations to Kerry for P3. A fantastic result indeed.
It's a shame we can't talk to Kerry because, as you mentioned, best result of the season and been here every single week. So full credit to Kerry, and I think I'd have to give him my driver of the day, just as a little. Yeah, it means absolutely nothing, but at least there's the little there's the meaning behind it. There we go. But we have to say thank you to all of the drivers for giving us such great entertainment, and thank you to everybody at home for watching along, because it has been such a fun race to cover for the penultimate round of both the LMP3-GT4 Challenge and the GTP-GT3 series. It's been a pleasure to be calling it myself, Darragh Thacker, alongside Reese Gardner, joined by Dustin Ollis, who's been as sharp as ever up in the broadcast booth, doing a fantastic job to produce the best broadcast that we always can. Next week, we are going to the finales. There are 2 of them, as you would expect. The first one, Virginia International Raceway. It's tight. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really important to get that qualifying done early. And then after Virginia, we're going to head to the Circuit de la Sarthe. You can't really get 2 more different tracks for 2 season finales on the same night. It's going to be an absolutely cracking evening of racing. You won't want to be anywhere else. 7 days time, same place here on RaceSpotTV to watch the season finale in PRL in both of our championships that we're going to be feasting our eyes upon. Thanks for everyone who's watched along, but we will see you in 7 days time when the champions will be crowned.